and Hamilton with Jim Rutledge and Matt Hamilton, presented by Coors Light on 100.5 ESPN.
Chocolate is candy.
I think the clear differentiator is
There's not a differentiator. That's like saying strawberries are fruit. Which one would you rather have? This is a horrible take.
no, it's a correct take.
No, it's not. Chocolate is
Broadcasting
candy.
live from the Everlight Solar Studio with Matt Hamilton, here's Jim Rutledge.
For the record, I was proven right by the professional confectioners of the world. Even if it technically classifies as a candy, they do not classify it as a candy because they put chocolate in a separate segment. They treat it differently. They sell it differently. If you go to a candy store, it is a completely different product than candy. So we can get into the Webster definition of it, but I would say colloquially, chocolate and candy are two different things. We can ask TikTok that question. Is chocolate different than candy? I will go to my grave saying, yes, I am Jim Rutledge, alongside Jesse Nelson and Colin Russo and Ryan Wollersheim behind the glass. And we have Maddie, our social media queen, in here as well. Guys, to the mountains are blue, you know what to do.
Let's crush a Coors Light, Jim.
We are presented by Coors Light, live from the Everlight Solar Studio. Get into the show, 844-770-3776. That's my whole show today.
What aisle do you buy the chocolate in?
Again, you're getting into the Webster definition of it. It is viewed differently. They sell chocolate. They will block off chocolate.
What's the name of the aisle where you buy M&Ms?
I don't know. I buy it in the chocolate and candy aisle is what I buy it.
No one has ever called it the chocolate and candy aisle.
I have. I asked my wife this, who's smarter than me, and she says, yeah, they're two different things. There's chocolate, and then there's candy.
Colin,
But there's chocolate candy, and
Again,
that's a whole different. Are you saying that's a whole different category?
So the idea was, this is where it came from. My daughter's like, oh, Skittles and M&Ms are similar. And I said, no, they're not. One is a candy, one is a chocolate treat. So
but they're similar. I agree with you.
But no, they're nowhere close in
they are
flavor.
Both
There's
round
chocolate
and small
that's separated
candies.
from candy, but there's also, most of the time, chocolate is on Halloween. It's with candy. You're saying, like, Halloween, you go to the houses and you get chocolate and candy, or you just go and get candy,
you get chocolate
trick or
and
treating?
candy. But so I Googled, is chocolate a candy?
I don't care what the confectioners say. I heard this
And here's
yesterday.
what TotallyChocolate.com has to say.
Totally
chocolate.
Totally chocolate.
I think it's a candy website. It can be considered a candy, but more professional confectioners will not classify it as a candy if the candy contains some amount of chocolate. So they will not call it a candy if it contains chocolate.
But you're talking about the more professional confectioners, so that's... Are we talking about a different quality and level of chocolate?
Or the
chocolate
dessert baking shows.
Yeah, the chocolate you see at Walgreens, that's probably just candy.
And also, all chocolate is technically not candy because some chocolate does not have sugar in it, which would be the definition for candy.
But what chocolate that you interact with doesn't have sugar?
Right, but this is also the idea of cucumbers are a fruit, but they're not. But they're kind of, you consider them a vegetable.
They're not. Yeah, they got to classify as something.
Tomatoes are fruit, but
chocolate is candy.
But you would call it a vegetable. I'm saying that chocolate is its own thing.
But you're talking about the perfectionist, like, the pure chocolate
The people
that we don't see. Nobody sees that.
I'm just going back again. I'm going to go back to the professional confectioners don't classify it as a candy. To their point, if candy has any sort of chocolate in it, they're calling it a chocolate, not a candy.
This is almost as aggravating as Minnesota
Willy
Vikings.
Wonka has a
fans have to
chocolate
feel
bar.
He has a chocolate factory, and he makes gumdrops and all kinds of
He
stuff
makes
in there.
candy and chocolate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When your girls go trick-or-treating and they come back, Colin was onto something. Do you say, what kind of candy did you get? Or
then
do you say,
what kind of
what
chocolate?
kind of candy and chocolate did you get? Do you differentiate
It's
the two?
categorized together within Halloween.
And
That's
again,
one
What
thing.
kind of candy?
And
Three
I'm-
Musketeers.
Is Halloween
Great.
doing this wrong? Do they need to have a chocolate day?
Again, I'm just saying that you're now speaking in general. That's like a cola. Like Pepsi and Coke are different. Hey, are you having a soda?
That's like only people in Idaho that say, can I have a Coke? When instead they should be saying, can I have a soda?
But a soda could be Sprite, Dr. Pepper. It could be Mountain Dew, any of those things. But so to your point, that's the same thing as Halloween candy. But when you put it out, if you're a kid, at least I remember doing this, you would separate your chocolate from your candy.
So what you're saying is like Mountain Dew, for example, falls under the umbrella of soda.
Yes.
But you're also saying that chocolate falls under the umbrella of candy on Halloween?
I'm saying that you can lump them together, but in general, you're still going to separate them out. That, like, I get the idea that, yes, maybe technically
It's
it
under
is
the
a
umbrella,
candy,
yeah.
but colloquially, everyone would separate those two, that you are viewing things as a chocolate or a candy.
Okay.
I've never called anything, because Alex Stroh's like, oh, that's just a sweet candy. All candy is sweet. So again, that doesn't make any sense. There is candy to me is like Skittles or Juju Beads or things like Snow Caps is a chocolate. I understand it's a candy, but it is a chocolate.
But there's candy that has chocolate within it, and that is a chocolate-based product, correct?
And again, that one I'll leave to the professional confectioners. They say not candy that is a chocolate, or that's not chocolate, that's
like
candy.
Kit Kat, for example, is that just a chocolate or is that a candy as well? Or are we just going to jump around through the candies here and decide which is a chocolate and which is a candy?
Well,
So aggravating.
it's just one of those things. So it's
No
like,
wonder Hamilton takes so much time off from this show.
That's some booty joke.
It's like a lot of things. You know it when you see it. It's just, you know what is
It's
chocolate.
intuitive, yeah.
Yeah, you know what's candy.
Unbelievable.
We have amendments written on the idea of you know it when you see it. So
Oh my God.
that is the same thing is what I'm getting at.
Your
Bill-
government wants you to determine the difference between lollipops and Three Musketeers.
Do you think
Yes.
that separation, that idea, you're in the minority on that? Do you think
a lot of people, we got some text coming in. Yesterday we had some text with me, and we never polled it, but
I was fired up listening to this on my drive home
let's
yesterday.
just poll it. We didn't do it yesterday.
Okay.
I want to see if
Iron
I
Jack-
think he's in like the 30% minority. That's what I would argue.
Chocolate different than candy.
All right,
That's how
it's
I want
going
to
up.
present it.
It's
It
going
is-
up in the Rutledge and Hamilton Twitter poll right now.
All right. If Bill and Madison chimes in, if you get a candy bar and pick it out of Snickers, which is chocolate, it's still a candy bar, aka candy. Again, Bill, you're getting caught up in the name of like, oh, we're just going to the candy bar. Then Cola, Coke, and Pepsi are the same thing because all
not
candy's not the
true.
same. They're all different.
You
It is
can't-
a chocolate bar.
There are a few people in the United States who will refer to any soda as, hey, can I have a Coke with that? And then you'll say, well, what kind of Coke? Oh, Sprite.
Snickers says Snickers chocolate bar. So, Bill,
That's
you're
great.
wrong on a million levels.
It's-
It is a Snickers chocolate
But
bar.
you still-
But there's
But
candy
consisting
bars
of-
that describe the candy bar if they have like
But I'm just saying-
marshmallows in it or if they are sour. That's
Snickers
what they.
is a chocolate bar.
They're just
consisting
describing
of
the
nougat
product.
topped with caramel and peanuts.
They're just describing
and encased
it.
in milk chocolate.
Brad Nortman and I were at the Great Dane last week. There's little Timmy walking around selling candy bars outside the Great Dane. And we say, okay, what kind of candy bars you got? I got a chocolate bar. I got a caramel. That's great. Those are candy bars. Those
Yeah,
aren't
that's just
chocolate
describing
bars.
the candy.
You don't have the kids going for baseball fundraisers saying they're selling chocolate bars. No one says
Yes,
that.
they do. You sell chocolate bars for.
No, you sell candy
No,
bars.
you don't sell. You sell chocolate bars.
Well, now you're just arguing over the name, though. It's kind of like this. It's
Then there
the
would be
same.
no
That's
such
just a
thing as
preference thing. That's how you kind of like you were raised with it. You
By
know,
that
some people
logic,
grow up
unless
saying
you have
that.
a Jolly Rancher brick,
Butterfinger.
there's no such thing
One
as a
of a
candy bar.
kind, crispity, crunchy, peanut buttery chocolate bar. That's their ad campaign.
Crispity crunchity.
Nobody better lay a finger on my Butterfinger or challenge me on my chocolate versus candy take. Is where I am at.
I'm amazed that this has rolled over from the end of yesterday's show to the start of today's show across multiple hosts. It's our pleasure to be here with you, Jim. This is amazing, and you are so wrong, and I can't wait for the poll to reflect that.
I feel good about it. I feel very good about it. A few other people are agreeing with me on the talk and text line. Tauscher, though, has a worse take. You were on with Mark Tauscher earlier today, and he's drunk on the green and gold Kool-Aid because you said, I think, last week that you thought this was an 8 or 9 win team. And I don't disagree with that, but that is in a perfect world. That is an injury-free season from the Green Bay Packers. They're 8 or 9 wins because I think that means a lot of things go right. But as soon as injuries start happening, which they will, they're going to end up around a 6-win team. But more so to the part of it, and Jason Wilde agreed with me yesterday. I don't know what Jason said yesterday or today with Tauscher, and you can share some of that. But the Packers are not serious about winning. I watched the show Succession. They uses the line, "You're not serious people." That's what I would say to the Packers front office right now. You want to win football games? Why'd you get rid of Mason Crosby? You want to win football games? Why do you have absolutely no life raft if Jordan Love gets hurt? You want to win football games? You have Bupkis behind slightly proven young receivers, and you have nothing at tight end. So you are relying on all rookies who Tauscher has talked about before that rookie season is the hardest one to stay healthy and to make it through because you've busted your ass all offseason trying to get ready for the draft and all these things. There's no break. So now you're all these young guys. You have Christian Watson, who is a body that is designed to be missing a few games each year. He's 25 years old, so he's not like he's going to grow into it more. This is who he is. He's going to miss a few games. That's been his entire life. So you have no safety net. And you have a guy in Jordan Love that, even if he plays well, will likely struggle to punch it into the end zone with his arm. And then you don't have Mason Crosby, arguably the best kicker in team history. You let him walk. The Packers are not even serious about being a team that can win a Super Bowl.
So what I will say to that, Jim, and what I said last week, and first of all, when we get to Tauscher's tiers, whenever we do get to that, he's totally wrong, and I can't wait to hop on that train with you. But I will say this about the Packers. If you're going to go through a rebuild, this is the year to do it because you could still be a team that's one of the 7 teams at the end of this thing in the NFC that has a chance to compete in a Super Bowl. And if that's still a goal to continue to rebuild the team and to move on from Aaron Rodgers and to go young and try and grow with a brand new core, and you happen to do it in a year where the NFC is awful and you can get away with it, and you look within their own division, there's 3 other teams that aren't very good. The Vikings are also unloading, as Dalvin Cook was released earlier today. There's opportunities to rebuild this season and still be good enough to be one of the 7 teams standing at the end.
Is that actually a bad thing? Wouldn't it be better to bottom out? What is the point? Because here's the thing. That is disingenuous to say because you got Jordan Love as your quarterback. And right now, all evidence points to he ain't going to be Aaron Rodgers in his prime this year. So by saying we got a chance because we backdoored our way into the playoffs with 8 wins, that is a lie. Well, that is being purposely obtuse. Okay, neat, you got to the playoffs. You're not anywhere close to You're not close to the Dallas Cowboys or Philadelphia. The 49ers will beat the snot out of you. They took you to the woodshed when you had Aaron Rodgers. What are they going to do this time around? They're going to take you to the woodshed and bury you.
Some former offensive linemen think the Packers are only one tier away from the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk about that in a minute. I would defer to you two. Jim, you're a Bears fan. Colin, you're a Jaguars fan. You guys know more about finishing at the bottom of the conference than I do.
Okay, that was a cheap shot.
So
it was cheap.
Does resetting and starting over work, or is it better to be fundamentally competitive while being able to kind of retool on the fly?
I think you'll know in the first few games. Going into the season, Jim's right. Like, they're only reloaded at quarterback with a quarterback that's not going to be Aaron Rodgers' level. And sure, they got guys who are 1 year more experience, 1 year further along in the system. You got the same head coach. Sure, that's a benefit, and the defense is pretty solid. But you're kind of reloading by taking a step back. And no Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to have the same level of production. Jordan Love, it's his first year under center, actually starting. And the games we've seen of him, he hasn't been very good. What's to change? If he's going to come out and win 10 games, sure, because the division is bad and the conference is bad, I understand that. But there's also 3 juggernauts probably, that would absolutely kick the crap out of them. So it's a level of you got to make sure you know exactly what you want out of the season. If the playoff berth is it, I think that wild card is wide open. Jim, I don't know if you agree with that. Yep. If they want to dive into that and get the wild card, you're not really going much farther than that. But if you're going to make the playoffs, I think it's worth it.
And we can look into Tauscher's tier after the break here because he's also assuming that nobody else gets better. He's also writing the whole history of the Detroit Lions off of saying, oh, they've been bad in the past.
They're going to be pretty good this year.
They've been an ascending team. And you know what teams, and we won't know it until it happens, but teams wrote off the Packers until they did it. Oh, this is a crappy team from the 80s. They were the losers. They were the perpetual losers until they weren't. You are the losers until you aren't the losers anymore. And Detroit is a team on the come-up.
Definitely.
And he's right. Chicago, but they're a year ahead of the Packers in their rebuild. Chicago bottomed out, and now they're a year in front of what their plan is. Look at Chicago's roster, and unquestionably, Justin Fields is more proven than Jordan Love. So I think those two teams are going to compete. And I think, look,
the Packers are more well-rounded compared to the Bears, though.
Where? The wide receiver room is better in Chicago.
The defense is better.
Defense, all those first-round picks.
Tremaine Edmonds has been added. T.J. Edwards were added. So there's multiple.
They're getting better, but it was still a terrible defense.
It was a terrible defense last year. But, again, the Packers, when it mattered.
O-line.
Oh, terrible.
Again, O-line, the Bears spent money on it. So I would say these two teams are more similar than you want to say. Because here's the other part of it. You're assuming I would say everything good for the Packers. Everyone's going to bounce back. All those first-rounders are going to play like first-rounders. But we talked about this yesterday. There's like, what, 3 first-rounders who are actually playing like first-rounders on the Green Bay Packers?
Yeah.
I mean, Stokes, sure, first-rounder. When is he playing this year? Rashawn Gary, when is he playing this year? But my point being with it, forget even Chicago out of it, Detroit and Minnesota are unquestionably better than Green Bay.
Yeah.
And when you roll into it, I think Chicago is going to be like Detroit last year. And I think they're going to look like maybe even Jacksonville, the ceiling last year. They're going to go from a 3-win team to a 7 to 9-win team. That's where I think they are living. But the question is, the Packers won, 8 games last year?
They were 8-9.
8-9.
They unquestionably, and you cannot tell me otherwise, got worse. This
Talent-wise, yes, I agree.
Yes.
But that's not to say that they can't be a playoff team, because last year's standards for playoff teams in the NFC is not the same as this year's
Right, because they
standard.
could be better. The other teams in the NFC could be better.
A couple of them, but also the Vikings are worse. The Seahawks will likely be
Packers-
worse.
The Buccaneers are going to be worse.
Why are the Seahawks and Vikings worse, but the Packers have had a bigger fall off than those two teams?
Good point.
You removed a fringe Pro Bowl quarterback who 2 years ago had coming off back-to-back Pro Bowls. And Aaron Rodgers, forget even the rest of it, is a veteran quarterback who knows where all the bodies are buried out there on the field. And every dumb Packer fan out there, and specifically dumb Packer fan, who thinks that Aaron Rodgers was the problem last year, I got news for you. Aaron Rodgers covered up so many warts. Yes, he maybe made more mistakes than normal, but how many checks did he make at the offensive line to change it from a run to a pass or vice versa? How many times did he put a receiver in the right position? How many times did the receiver run to the wrong position or drop a touchdown? How many times did Aaron Rodgers save their bacon out there by not turning it over or making an amazing throw for a touchdown and keeping the ball alive with his feet? Blinders have been put on because of Aaron Rodgers' antics over the last 6 months. But even Aaron Rodgers last year was a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Jordan Love, if he's top 17, you're going to be happy. That's still a 7-position drop-off at the most important position.
And the Packers last year, one thing about that, too, is like they were a product of either playing really, really well or playing really, really bad. They had that 3-game win streak earlier in the year. They started off 3-1. Then they had the quick, terrible losing streak right then. Then they were able to bounce back and were in playoff contention in Week 17 or Week 18. So, and then that terrible loss to the Lions. That's a whole other story. But that's partially contributed to Aaron Rodgers. You know, a veteran quarterback can get you to those situations and give you a chance. Are we confident that even Jordan Love can do that? To Jim's point, Bears have gotten better. I'd argue that the Bears are closer to the Packers than the Packers are closer to the Lions.
Yeah, I think the Packers and the Bears are going to be fighting for that 6 to 8 win season.
And I feel like you guys are kind of proving my point that the fact that the Lions, the Bears, and the Packers are all kind of in the same boat fighting for a playoff spot shows that it's the year to rebuild, and it's still a chance to compete and be one of the 7 remaining at the end of the NFC.
Who cares? You're still going to get smoked by Philly, San Francisco, Dallas, and New Orleans. And probably you're assuming the Giants. We're just writing off the Giants. Why aren't they getting better?
Did people say the same thing when the 49ers came to Lambeau a couple of
And
years
to that
ago?
point,
Like,
Jim,
you just got to get in.
You want the Bears to make the playoffs. If the Bears are going to make the playoffs as that last team and get smoked in the first round, you'd want that over bottoming out and
Right,
getting
because
the top
they also
pick.
have Carolina's first-round pick. So, again, Chicago and Carolina's second-round pick. And they got DJ Moore from Carolina. So, again, go look at their roster and go look at the setup. But Green Bay, and we'll hear from Colin Cowherd, he thinks there's a hurt coming for Green Bay. This is Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light. Miss any of the show? Find full show podcasts free on Wisconsin On Demand and wherever you get your podcasts.
Since J&K Security Solutions opened in 1987, our attention to detail and customer service have been our strongest assets. I'm President Jeffrey Beckman. We'll always do our best to find the most efficient and cost-effective solution to every job we tackle. Whether it's security for your home or business, installing video surveillance, or being able to control your garage doors from your phone, we can help you feel empowered with simple and user-friendly technology. Let's work together to secure your home or business. jksecurity.com.
Are you dreaming of a new look? Let the pros at 5 Star Painting bring color to your world, to your interior, exterior, cabinets, and more. We make it easy with online scheduling, free on-site estimates, and a dedicated project manager on every job. Uneasy about hiring a contractor? We know, we've been there. 5 Star Painting is customer-focused and quality-driven, exceeding expectations every time. Call or visit 5starpainting.com today. 5 Star Painting, a neighborly company.
Jim Rutledge here to tell you about X Golf Madison, and the most important thing that you need to know is that X Golf Madison is for everyone. Heck, I golf there. Whether you're a seasoned pro, a new golfer, or in between like me, X Golf Madison is going to be fun for you. They have a full bar, excellent service, great food, and the most advanced and accurate golf simulators in the world. You can play one of their 50 courses available, take lessons from a PGA pro, hit the driving range, or even join a league. Stop by their East Madison or Middleton location today, or visit them online at xgolfwisconsin.com.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-587-5063. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-587-5063 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-587-5063 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-587-5063.
Forward Madison FC's professional soccer season is in full swing at Breeze Stevens Field, and the Flamingos' next home game is Saturday, June 10th at 7 p.m. With Father's Day just around the corner, Forward Madison is offering a ticket package perfect for the soccer dad in your life. Receive sandals, socks, beer, and a match ticket for just $33. To purchase this package or single game tickets, head to ForwardMadisonFC.com. Forward Madison, fun for all.
Matt Hamilton here for Iron Jock. Believe it or not, being an Olympic curler takes a lot of practice time on the ice. And despite always being cool, I still work up a sweat. That's why I love Iron Jock and their no-stink technology. Silver Iron technology is the how behind why it works, and that is about as technical as I can get with it. What I do know is that if I'm on the ice or just wanting to look good, I know Iron Jock has t-shirts, polos, and hoodies for me. Support this Wisconsin-based company today and get gear at ironjoc.com. That's ironjoc.com.
Join us at the Madison Parade of Homes, exclusively sponsored by Nuns, June 16th to 25th. Visit and get inspired. Go to MadisonParadeOfHomes.com and purchase your tickets today.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton on 100.5 ESPN. Brought to you by X Golf in Madison and Middleton.
Preach, Jim. Rodgers always covered up a ton of warts. O-line mediocrity, among other things. You always can't have it both ways. The same idiots who used to say Rodgers needed to throw more interceptions, take more risk, are probably the same ones cherry-picking the interceptions as evident he was on decline. Delusional. That's JJ in Poinet. Daniel the Sloth chimes in here. I honestly think Green Bay's entire season would have been better if Watson had not dropped the guaranteed touchdown in the first possession of the season. Everything went downhill from there. Season-changing drop there from Christian Watson.
In the first game?
That's a bold take.
On play number one.
And they won the next three. Like,
Yes.
what do we
Daryl at Deerfield
Couldn't have
chimes
been
in.
that Jets game at all. Couldn't have been that Titans game. No, it was Christian Watson.
The only way the Packers make the playoffs is if they win the division. The North won't have a wild card. I agree with that.
I agree with that as
It's
well.
much like the Brewers right now in the
A lot
NL
of
Central.
similarities, yes.
There
You're
could
not-
very well be two teams in that NFC East who take that wild card spot.
So let's fire up some NFL music, and we're going to get Tauscher's Terrible Tears, is what I am calling it here. And then we'll get to, I think we'll try to come up with Rutledge and Hamilton correct tears. This is Rutledge and Hamilton presented by Coors Light, live from the Everlight Solar Studio. Jim Rutledge, Colin Russo, and Jesse Nelson with us. And we're all winners. Go be a winner. Go to Ho Chunk Gaming Madison. That's where winners go. Over $12 million in jackpots last month alone. Over $50 million in jackpots this year. Go be a winner. Go to Ho Chunk Gaming Madison. Let's get to Tauscher's Terrible Tears. Jesse Nelson.
So, and this is actually the revised list because he unveiled a tiers of 4 earlier today, and then he amended it to be a 6-tiered system. Tausch's NFC tiers, and this is, of course, inspired by the news today that the Minnesota Vikings released running back Dalvin Cook. Pro Bowler each of the last 4 years, so that got Tausch into thinking his rankings of the tiers of the NFC. Tier 1, standing alone, last year's two teams that played in the NFC Championship game, the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers.
No issues there.
Yep.
Tier number 2, the Dallas Cowboys, fighting McCarthy's, and the new-look Derek Carr-led New Orleans Saints.
It's a little high for New Orleans for me, but Carr's a proven player.
Well, they went. So last year they were a pretty good team, and they went from Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton to Carr. So that is a settler at quarterback, and I think that you can count on that team just being solid.
Yeah.
I think that's a 10-win team.
And their NFC South opponents all got worse.
Yeah, it's a terrible division.
Yeah.
Terrible
question
division.
marks
Yes.
this year. So that's, I think, Tausch's big argument with the Saints is they may not be a super great team, but they'll rack up 10, 11, maybe even 12 wins based on what their competition is. Then we get to Tier 3. So far, smooth sailing on the list.
I call this the hot dog tier. Because this is the tier where Tauscher just tries to throw Green Bay in with the rest of the ingredients. Like, I'll just sneak them in here because they're somehow, in my delusional mind, on the same tier. He also did it with Atlanta.
He did. So here, Tier 3, as the aforementioned, Green Bay Packers. Along with their NFC North rival, Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions, the Atlanta Falcons, and two playoff teams from a year ago, the New York Giants and the Seattle Seahawks. All of those teams, according to Mark Tauscher, weekdays 9 to noon on Wilde and Tausch, are Tier 3 in the NFC.
This is a very biased poll from Tauscher, or an agenda poll from Tauscher. Like, he has specific feelings on certain teams, and this is what he is putting a lot of his past prejudice into this poll. Let's get through the rest of it because I want to get to our takes on it.
Tier 4, the LA Rams and Jim, your Chicago Bears. Tausch puts them on Tier 4.
All right.
Tier 5. This is.
I don't hate that Chicago ranking. That's fair.
No, I just think Green Bay and Minnesota are there with them. We'll get to that.
This is where we cross the stink pot line, according to Tausch, for Tier 5, Tampa and Carolina, and then all alone at the very bottom, the Arizona Cardinals. Those are Mark Tauscher, Packers Hall of Famer, offensive lineman, superstar. Tausch's tiers of NFC teams for 2023.
So I think we all can agree the top part. I have no problem 1 through 4, whatever. I think you can make a case that they're tiered up from everyone else. Those teams, Philly, San Francisco, Dallas, and New Orleans. I would say those teams are kind of static from last year. They were in some cases, on the upper echelon. They have some stability. Look, Dallas could. What happens to this tier if Dallas adds Dalvin Cook? And so what happens when other players are cut? Because here's the other question of this whole thing. Green Bay, I think they're done. They're not roster building here.
No.
What happens if Chicago adds Jadeveon Clowney? What happens if, let's say, the Giants add another player? Because other players are going to get cut. There's going to be cap casualties. Let's say Khalil Mack gets cut and he ends up on Seattle. Let's say Detroit adds someone. Green Bay is not doing anything.
DeAndre Hopkins is still out there.
Exactly, yeah. Where does DeAndre Hopkins end up? If he ends up at one of these teams, that tears him up as well. Mm-hmm. And they ain't going to Green Bay. Nobody's going to Green Bay because Green Bay doesn't want anyone right now. Again, Green Bay is not actively trying to build a roster that's competing for a Super Bowl, which is why this tier to me is insane. But I'll go with the top 4. We go with the top 4. We'll kind of just... I don't
love the New Orleans thing as much as you guys do. That was a 7-win team last year, and Carr is a better player.
Yeah.
And it's a bad division.
It's bad division.
But there are a bunch of guys that, could easily get hurt. They have a lot of guys who are always battled around. So that's a team that could always...
they still have talent. They have Kamara. They have Michael
plenty
Thomas
of talent, and they've paid these guys, and these guys are proven players, but they're never healthy.
I saw a tweet somewhere that somehow Damar Hamlin came back from death back to the Bills faster than Michael Thomas.
Since he hasn't played. It's incredible.
So, Michael Thomas has got some...
Probably not the name I should have thrown out first, but Olave, they've got a talented
I have those
two
teams. I have Philly, San Francisco as clear echelon. Dallas, New Orleans kind of static. They'll get slightly better.
If I could arrange it even more specific, Dallas, I would say, is definitely above New Orleans on that tier.
So why we put New Orleans down to this tier I have before, where I think these teams in tier 3 are on, I kind of call it the come-up tier. The Giants, Seattle, Detroit, New Orleans. I think all those teams... I think it's fair to expect them to either match or do slightly better than they did last year.
There are 4 teams that not only were better than the Packers in terms of record, other than New Orleans, but they all improved. The Giants kept their coaching staff, which we all thought Kafka was going to leave, and they came back and they re-signed Daniel Jones, another year in the system, and they got Waller. And then you got Seattle. Good Jackson Smith-Jigba is in the mix. Second year under the same system. And Detroit, who's definitely going to get better, had a good draft, and it's a team that people want to play for.
Seattle's the one that I disagree with. have no evidence to support my argument. I simply think they caught lightning in a bottle with Geno Smith.
You don't think that
year.
Geno's going to continue with it, even in his first year in the system?
I think this year they take a step back. I think the other teams are definitely on the come up. I think the Giants, certainly the Giants and Lions, I think belong on the same tier.
Seattle they took Devin Witherspoon, number 5 overall pick. Seattle had 2 first-round picks.
Yes.
And they had, what?
It was Smith-Njigba.
4, yes. And then they have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. So they added a running back from UCLA and Derek Hall from Auburn. So they've added a lot. So you're right. They caught lightning in a bottle, but they added so much.
And Carroll is so good with these younger players.
He is, and they are. There's no doubt with the draft picks they added, they did have a good draft. I think there's just extra weight that goes into that quarterback position, and I think they got real hot last year with Geno, and I think they take a step backwards this year as teams figure them out, scheme them out better over this offseason. I think they take a step back.
I think it'd be weird to assume that Geno would be the same type of elite player that he all of a sudden turned into, but the fact that maybe he's in the perfect system, perfect situation, perfect coach and everything, maybe that's why I'm a little higher on them than most.
I'd say the Seahawks end this season where the Jets ended last season. They feel good about everything but quarterback.
Okay.
I'll be optimistic. I think they're going to end up, I think last year, what were they, 7 or 8 wins? Were they 8?
Seattle was 8 and 9, yeah. Same as Green
I think
Bay.
they're going to get 9 or 10. I don't think it's crazy. A few more things break their way. Geno Smith, Rich Gannon, there's been other quarterbacks who have found the right system for them. Maybe he won't be as good, but I don't think he's going to be required to. Now he has better players around him. There's more players who can do things for him.
Why don't we love Minnesota there?
Minnesota, I would say, I don't have them as a team on the rise.
That was their coaches in the first year last year. True. They won 13 games, and sure, they lost Cook. We all know running back really doesn't mean much.
True.
And they lost a couple defensive pieces, sure, but they have a great offense, and they probably have the best non-quarterback offensive piece in the league in Justin Jefferson.
But are you saying Minnesota's getting better? Or
I'm saying they should be in that tier. They won 13 games last year compared to the 9 games of all the other teams.
I'm kind of putting these more of like how I feel about the team. So I have the sleeper team, LA. I don't have any feel for them, so I just put them down as a sleeper.
That's all injuries, and they lost Ramsey too. You got to keep that in mind.
But if Stafford's healthy, could this team rip off some wins? Sure. I mean,
good coach
McVay's
and
a good coach.
Quarterback,
Yeah. I just don't know what that team is. And then I have Chicago, Green Bay, Minnesota as just question marks. That, look, if Justin Fields, from year 1 to year 2, he made a massive jump. If he makes a 30% jump from year 2 to year 3 that we just saw Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts do by adding more playmakers for the quarterback, the defense could still be a problem. But if the quarterback is solved, we know that solves a lot of problems there. They had a string of putting up almost 30 points a game in the middle of the year.
Yep.
The defense was allowing 35 at that point, but this is a defensive-minded coach in Eberflus. He's going to sign more players.
They need to help
do more
Fields
defensive
just as much as they can. That's all the idea.
And that's what they've done. They've drafted running backs. They've added DJ Moore. They traded for Chase Claypool. They added Robert Tonyan. So I think Chicago's a team that I think their floor is probably 6 and their ceiling is probably 9. And I think that's where Green Bay fits. Minnesota, again, they're probably closer to LA. I didn't call them a sleeper, but they're more of like, I have no idea what they're going to be.
They might go for a big regress, or they might be in the same situation. I like it because it's the second year under the head coach. And he had a great year the first year. And sure, bad playoff loss, but an incredible game at that against that Giant game.
And as much as we want to get on Cousins, and they also have Jefferson.
He played great that game.
Yes. I know they lost
terrible check down at the end of the game, but he played a great game.
Yeah. And then you have, then the bottom is just, that's Carolina, Tampa, and Atlanta.
Yeah,
I don't know where Tosher with Atlanta.
That's such an odd
His Atlanta take is strange. Like, Desmond Ridder isn't good.
Yeah,
like,
we don't know anything about him. Yeah,
I mean, I saw enough last year to determine that guy's got a lot of room to grow.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel the same about Jordan Love, quite honestly. But
that's a team I could totally see being the quarterback sweepstakes this time next draft cycle.
They've got talent on offense, but that quarterback is just
bad division. Bad division.
And so the other part of it is when I look at some of these tiers, and the difference is that Minnesota is similar to Green Bay in this part of it. They didn't really do much with their roster outside of traditionally just drafting to try to get better. In fact, they're getting worse on paper with their roster.
Yep.
And Chicago they are actively now. They're where Detroit was last year. Chicago bottomed out, and now they are going in with their QB and going in with their roster. They're going to try. They spent smart money. I think they're going to spend a little bit more. I don't know what they're going to be. But from a roster-building, team mentality standpoint, that team – and you hear them talk and those players talk, there's nobody then in Chicago talking like David Bakhtiari, like, hey, we're probably rebuilding, whatever. Chicago's like, no, now we're going forward. We ate all the trash we had to eat last year, and now we're going forward. Maybe they'll be bad, but the mentality there. Green Bay, we're getting rid of our veterans. We have, God, what was the number? It is 25% of their cap is in dead cap space.
Yeah.
That's not a team serious about winning football games.
So let me ask you this, Jim, Colin, Ryan, everybody. How many Packers fans feel the same way Tausch does? How many Packers fans would say that the Packers are on the same tier or a better tier than every team in the NFC North? Because Tausch's big assertion today is that when you look at the NFC North, the Bears are a team that's on the up, but still a lot of room to grow. The Vikings have gotten worse in a similar sense that the Packers have this offseason. The Lions, while stock was up at the end of the season, are still a very unproven winning culture team. Tausch thinks the Packers have as good a chance as any in the NFC North to win the division title this year. How many Packers fans do you think feel the same way?
Packers fans are traditionally, that's fairly optimistic. I think there's not a single reason to believe that. I think the Lions, returning their quarterback, returning their head coach, they got a lot more pieces all around. Minnesota was just a much better team last year. I don't think there's not enough on the Packers side that can prove that they make this leapfrog two teams that really either regressed a little bit or they improved. I don't think there's a single reason to believe that.
Most Packer fans I talk to are like, hey, we're just looking forward to a season to watch the young guys. Like, that's the most part. I think if you are dunking on the Lions, you are, again, falling to the trap of teams people used to do that to the Packers, and then they became really good. They added, obviously Gibbs from Alabama. Maybe that was a reach, but he's a really good football player. And then they added David Montgomery, by the way, as well. In free agency. Then they added Jack Campbell. Maybe that's a reach too, but again, a player who will start and do well.
And second year under Hutchinson as well.
They added Sam Laporta, a second round draft pick. Brian Branch, a guy who at one point was viewed as a starter. A first round guy.
I wanted the Jags to get him.
So, those are players in the first. I'll just look at the first two rounds. Those are players, and those players are expected to do things immediately.
And he's a coach that people want to play for.
Right.
That makes a huge difference. Those guys play hard, and a lot of teams don't.
And a young team still responds to a guy like Dan Campbell. So if you want to say Minnesota, Chicago, and Green Bay, right now we can throw them all in a blender, fine. But I think Minnesota and Chicago are going to separate themselves a little bit from Green Bay. I think Green Bay and Chicago will battle it out. I don't think anyone from the NFC North is going to a wild card, and I think Detroit wins the division. This is Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light. The mountains are blue, and we can prove it. Follow the show on Twitter at Jim and Matt.
Jim Rutledge here. If I sound lighter and fitter than I ever have sounded before, that's thanks to Carbon World Health. I had hit a wall in my efforts to lose weight while maintaining muscle. Then Dr. Ness Rodriguez introduced me to semaglutide, and I've dropped over 20 pounds in weight, and I have my body fat percentage at 10%. Semaglutide is the game-changing weight loss treatment you've seen all over social media, and it's available to you at Carbon World Health. It's FDA approved and will burn fat, not muscle. Go to carbonworldhealth.com today to set up a consultation.
Watch PGA Tour champions, including tournament host and Wisconsin native Steve Stricker, at the American Family Insurance Championship when it returns to University Ridge Golf Course in Madison, Friday, June 9th through Sunday, June 11th. AmFam Champ Week will also include an exciting concert featuring Tyler Hubbard of Florida Georgia Line, Friday, June 9th. Proceeds will support the Steve Stricker American Family Insurance Foundation and the American Family Children's Hospital. Get your tickets today at amfamchampionship.com. That's amfamchampionship.com.
Hey, it's Jason Wilde. Show your excitement for the Brew Crew's return with Brewers Checking from Associated Bank. You'll get a one-of-a-kind Brewers Debit MasterCard, 10% off at the team store, and VIP treatment with Express Check-In through the Associated Bank gate. And for the ultimate all-inclusive game day experience for your crew, check out the Associated Bank Power Alley Group Space. Featuring a full buffet and private bar, the Power Alley overlooks left center field. And who knows, the next Brewers home run could be headed your way. Learn more today at associatedbank.com/Brewers. Member FDIC.
Just look at them. State-of-the-art Honda hybrids, making ecological art out of any conditions they encounter. Rugged, dependable, stylish performance with fuel efficiency and low emissions that'll make a tree hugger blush. What's this phenomenon you're witnessing? It's the future, today. Electrified driving built for Wisconsin. Get your Honda hybrid now at your Wisconsin Heartland Honda dealer. Honda gets Wisconsin.
Gold medalist Matt Hamilton here to tell you about Wisconsin's best choice for roofing, siding, windows, and doors, Ridgetop Exteriors. I know they're the trusted local experts who consider customer service their number one goal, but don't just take my word for it. Jake and Dawn are both recent customers who left 5-star reviews for the outstanding service and quality of work on their projects. Get a free estimate for your home project today by logging on to ridgetopexteriors.com. Visit ridgetopexteriors.com.
Welcome to Story Time. I'm Stephen King. Beware the boogeyman as the stories are true, because there's something in the shadows waiting for you. Keep the lights on, check under your bed, close every closet, or you'll sleep with the dead.
From the mind of Stephen King, The Boogeyman, directed by Rob Savage, rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13. Now playing.
Sleep tight, boys and girls.
Hello, it is I, your JB Weld strength coach. It's time to flex those home repair muscles. If you've got a drippy pipe, busted lawn equipment, rotten wood, or a weekend project, JB Weld gives you the brawn and bravado to get it done. Our epoxy, super glues, putty sticks, and wraps create a permanent bond on metal, wood, plastic, glass, and more. So get your hands on some JB Weld and be your strongest self. Learn more at jbweld.com.
JB Weld, world's strongest bond.
Hi, I'm Madison Money Guy, Christian Finfrock with Retirement Income Strategies. And what sets us apart is we're an independent, family-run office. We help clients like you understand the financial world and build a portfolio that's in your best interest. To learn more, go to MadisonMoneyGuy.com.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light on 100.5 ESPN. Brought to you by Metro Kia of Madison, Madison's trusted Kia dealership.
She's a terror in my heart. I'm alive. She's the terror in my heart. I'm on fire. She's the terror in my heart. Take me higher than I've ever been.
I think, on close review, the Minnesota Vikings are the team that Mark Tauscher thinks the Green Bay Packers are. That Minnesota was a really good team last year, and they lost some players, but they got a first-rounder in Jordan Addison, who, in theory, could replace Thielen, and they've added some defensive players in the secondary, which they had some holes in theory that can help them out. But the Green Bay Packers, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's PTSD for me, but what this Packers team sounds like, it screams like a lot of Bears teams, like Mitch Trubisky's last year in Chicago. Like, oh, we got all these veterans still left over. Like, we can make a run. We can be the wild card team. That doesn't happen. This is classic. Yesterday I read quotes from Matt Nagy, and we played a little game. Is he talking about Mitch Trubisky, or is Matt LaFleur talking about Jordan Love in practice, because it's the same damn quotes. And now, when you look at it, you can try to sell yourself on a lot of things. But the other thing I'll go back to is Tauscher or anyone can look at his team on paper and go, okay, I like it. But there's nothing behind it. There's nobody. Where is the depth on this football team? It's not there. And they are, probably worse at safety, even defensively, worse at safety this year. Rashawn Gary's going to miss at least the first 4 games of the year.
Health and secondary, to be honest, and complete, even cornerback is going to be a problem.
Technically, we don't know about Rashawn Gary. So that when we asked Tausch the other day, he said, well, is Rashawn Gary going to be healthy? Because that was his argument on whether the defense would be an outstanding defense this
by
year.
the way, Rashawn Gary, I think, went 3 of his last 3 games without a sack. So Rashawn Gary's never paid off. Now, he might have gotten there last year. I thought he would have. But he never paid off. And a guy coming off an ACL realistically isn't going to look like Rashawn Gary, even if he is showing up. But he tore it in November. I think we learned from Bakhtiari, let's allow a little time for recovery there.
The reason why I believe that the Packers, despite going through a rebuilding season, are still going to be NFC contenders to reach the playoffs. Not saying they're a Super Bowl team by any means. Not even close.
Yep.
Especially compared to some of these other teams. But I think they can make the playoffs because I think they will play good enough defense with the talent that they've invested in on that side of the ball. And I trust that Matt LaFleur, in a year where he will have total control over his system without a quarterback who's going to be changing a bunch of plays at the line of scrimmage, without trying to alter his system to his quarterback's specific Hall of Fame skill set, I think he'll scheme up a couple of wins. I trust that he is that good from what I've seen in the 4 years he's been in Green Bay. Last year was different. This year, I think, knowing what they have on that side, run the ball effectively, which they have 2 dependable running backs that can do that, pass the ball just well enough, have an offensive line play just well enough, and be able to stop other teams. A lot of 20-17 wins could be in the cards for the Packers this year. But a win's a win. And if you can win 8-9 games and get into the playoffs, I'm okay with that.
Shifting back, you got to win the division. That's the idea. You got to win. There's going to be the NFC East is the best division. They're going to have quite a few teams in the mix there. The Giants are going to be better. The Dallas going to be there, and Philly's going to be the best team. I think the ultimate idea is in the NFL, it's very valuable if you have your head coach coming back and your starting quarterback coming back. The Packers are not one of those teams. They have to replace, although he was on the roster, dealing with Jordan Love for 17 games is a lot different than dealing with him in practice. So it's going to be a little bit of a growing out process, trying to figure out how to use him in games and where he succeeds. You have O'Connell and Cousins coming back. You know what you're getting. You know their camaraderie, how they work together. It's going to be a lot of question marks, more so than guarantees going into that season.
This is Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light. Colin Russell, Jesse Nelson, Jim Rutledge with you, live from the Everlight Solar Studio, talking Green Bay Packers and Tauscher's terrible tiers. You know why this is a terrible tier list? Did he just leave off Washington?
Yeah, he did.
Because you talked about teams. Did Washington finish with the same record as the Packers last year?
They won
I don't remember.
seven games, I think.
Okay.
I think they won
I thought
7 games.
They were pretty significantly worse. If I know
It was
Tausch,
8-8-1.
I feel like I know Tausch fairly well. I know I speak Tausch. I don't know if that means I know Tausch well, but I speak him well enough.
So they, in theory, had a better record than the Packers, so they weren't below 500?
I would guess Washington goes next to Chicago and LA on tier 4. So he has tier 3 is the Giants, Seahawks, Lions, Packers, Falcons, and Vikings. I don't think he would put Washington on that tier. I think he puts them one below.
Despite
with
the
Chicago
fact that
and
Washington didn't lose a franchise quarterback and finished with a better record than the Packers, he's going to still slot them.
Washington didn't lose one because they don't have one.
Right,
Sam Howell.
But they also
Sam Howell.
They have Jacoby. The other part of this is they have Jacoby Brissett on that team. The Packers would win more football games this year if they had Jacoby Brissett on
Isn't
their
that
team.
what every
Jordan Love.
6-win team has ever said? But we've got Jacoby Brissett.
Right. But
Washington's got a good defense,
games.
too. They got a good defense.
I'd feel more comfortable if I was trying to make the playoffs as a Packer fan if Jacoby Brissett was my quarterback and Jordan Love.
Now, I would be okay with, I said last year, make the trade for Derek Carr, bring in Jacoby Brissett. You got 2 options. If one goes south, move on from Jordan Love. I'll give you that.
What I look at this whole thing, and you go back to those tight games, who's kicking those field goals? And the Packers are telling on themselves. They're telling all of us that maybe we'll luck into this, but realistically, we're not trying to. Philly got better. San Francisco got better. Dallas, they made an effort to get better. They spent money and draft capital to get better. The Giants got better. Seattle got better. Detroit got better. New Orleans got better. Chicago got better. Minnesota, Green Bay, Carolina, Tampa, Zona, and maybe Washington and LA got worse. So the Packers are in that tier.
They are a team that has gotten worse.
What
There's
happens what happens if Christian Watson misses 3 games?
You throw the ball to Romeo Doubs.
And that's it?
And Reed. Jalen Reed.
Yeah, that's problematic.
What happens? So Christian Watson, who missed time throughout his entire time in college and in the NFL. What Luke Musgrave, who also missed time in college, misses a few games. Now who are you throwing the ball
Kraft, to? Jackrabbit.
What about
what if Jordan Love goes down?
Yeah. What about old-ass broken David Bakhtiari, who doesn't even want to be here? What happens when his
Jordan Love sprains an ankle? Who are they going out with?
You figure it out on the other side. Hide the hole.
How much do you think Aaron Rodgers, real question here, how much do you think, because I said this before, the offensive line coach for the Green Bay Packers under Aaron Rodgers was completely pointless. Aaron Rodgers made everyone look great. He wasn't taking a sack. He was getting the ball out of his hands.
Quick.
He knew what was happening. How much do you think that this offensive line, everyone's going to look worse this year? Because Jordan Love ain't doing that.
So
he's going to need more time.
While I agree with you, I do think one of the promising things that I've heard that's actually talking about Jordan Love's skill set and not just his confidence and leadership. Matt LaFleur talked about his ability to decision-making, and Love himself talked about decision-making, viewing the field, knowing when to take off, knowing when to try and throw something, when to check down, those are things that we have heard during OTAs that I do think it's an option as a more mobile quarterback than Aaron Rodgers was that'll be open to the Packers this year. So that's one thing that can help hide that offensive line trouble a little bit. Not saying it's going to be Michael Vick back there running all up and down the field, but Jordan Love is more mobile than Aaron Rodgers was. So if a pocket were to break down, he may have the instinct, I can take off and get 5-6 yards as opposed to what you had before.
We all agree that the Packers need to be a running team in order to see some offensive success. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So this offensive line, problematic. Their receivers, let's just say at the very least, are problematic. So
how many of them are great blockers as far as run blockers too? They're all like young guys.
If these guys can't get open, Jordan Love, what's he supposed to do? Like, if the running game's not working because the offensive line's not really cutting their gaps very well, what are they supposed to do? There's so many problems that could happen. At the end of the day, last year, like, we got Aaron Rodgers, he'll figure it out. Jordan Love going to figure it out? That's nerve-wracking.
I look at it like this. Last year, a perfect season for the Green Bay Packers. Everything goes right. They're probably a 10-11 win team. This year, everything goes right for the Packers. I think they're an 8-win team.
Health, playing well. Jordan Love has a
Yeah.
decent season. Jordan Love's good season is not 12 wins.
And I hope to God that Jordan Love is processing quick. This is his 4th year with the same head coach and the same offense, and he's been running the practices for the last 2 years.
He's seen plenty of film.
And and we're not talking about sticking him to a game. I talked about this yesterday. Why would you be worried about practice? Because this is something he's done now. He's a veteran at OTAs because Rodgers hasn't shown up. He's a veteran at running practices because Rodgers was hurt last year. So practice Jordan Love should look like
he should be so comfortable.
He should look like a god out there.
We talking about practice.
And Jason Wilde's quote was yesterday was, I guess you can call it a roller coaster, but there hasn't been a lot of highs.
It's fair. I mean, there hadn't been much of a ride, really, at this point with Jordan Love. Like, you're still waiting on finding out what you're signing up for.
That's why I don't like especially with the Lions and mix. They're much closer than what the Bears are than they are what the Lions are. Lions are trending up. Packers are trending down.
By the way, Chicago added a 9th overall pick at right tackle and signed one of the top guards in the league.
Yeah,
so
they're still a year or two away.
They are, but that offensive line and their left tackle started every single game last year. I don't know what that line's going to be, but when you add a the top right tackle in the draft, your line all of a sudden tiers better across the board. I don't think it's as good as the Packers, but they have Justin Fields or Michael Vick back there, not Jordan Love. Right now, I'm going to give away a case of Twisted Tea Variety Pack.
Nice.
This is a lot of fun. It's a limited edition party pack here. Summer Party Pack features original, half and half, Arnold Palmer for Alex Strofe back there, but and peach flavors, along with, and I had this last night, the new limited edition flavored Twisted Tea Rocket Pop. The new style combines the flavors of the classic Rocket Pop Popsicle, lemon lime, cherry, and blue raspberry, punched up with a taste of authentic hard iced tea. So that one I had last night. It tastes like Twisted Tea to start, and then the after is the Bomb Pop.
That's
fun. Rocket Pop there.
4th of July coming up.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very summer.
It was
Twisted
very
Tea
much.
on the
I had
beer.
a brat last night with that. It was fantastic. I'm going to give away a case of that right now to caller number 3, 844-770-3776. Caller number 3 wins a case of the Twisted Tea Party Pack. 844-770-3776. This is Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light, a finalist for Best of Madison Radio Team. Vote at channel3000.com. People really like this show. Rah. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin present your Badger Minute. Here's Alex Strofe.
This Badger Minute brought to you by the Clean Lakes Alliance's 11th annual Loop the Lake Bike Ride. Join the fun this June 17th and register today at cleanlakesalliance.org. Wisconsin basketball star forward Tyler Wall was on Rutledge and Hamilton on 100.5 ESPN Madison earlier this week and discussed his decision to come back for a 5th year.
Did I want to transfer? Did I want to come back? Did I want to go professional? And so basically what it came down to is I feel like we have a good group of guys coming back. We basically have everyone coming back. We were kind of a young team last year, but we got a lot of experience. Just the group of guys and the coaches that we have.
Find the full interview with Tyler Wall on Wisconsin On Demand or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Rutledge and Hamilton.
Pella's window and door design options are virtually limitless. Customize your order by August 31st and you could bundle and save big at PellaWI.com.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way. Offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional-grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Finally, baseball is back. Swing into the season with tickets to the action. Plus, with basketball and hockey heating up, now is a great time to experience a game. Vivid Seats is proud to be the official ticketing partner of ESPN. From on the glass to in the stands, Vivid Seats has great ticket prices to all the games. Every crack of the bat, every dribble down the court. Catch it all with Vivid Seats. Download the app or visit vividseats.com today. Vivid Seats. Experience it live.
The original hard iced tea started in 2001 in Cincinnati, Ohio. For Twisted Tea, the dream was simple. Brew a refreshing tea with flavors everyone loves and add a twist. With endless styles such as half and half, blueberry, peach, mango, and raspberry, you can always keep it twisted. Find Twisted Tea near you at twistedtea.com/locations. America parties with tea. Must be 21 or older to enjoy.
Listen to Rutledge and Hamilton every Thursday at 2:45 for your chance to win a case of Twisted Tea's limited edition party pack. The summer party pack features the original half and half and peach flavors along with a new limited edition flavor, Twisted Tea Rocket Pop. The new style combines the flavors of the classic Rocket Pop popsicle, lemon lime cherry, and blue raspberry, punched up with a taste of authentic hard iced tea. Listen every Thursday at 2:45 for your chance to win some free beer, or in this case, some free Twisted iced tea. That's 2:45 every Thursday.
LabCorp Clinical Trials is changing to a new name, Fortrea. While the name may be different, Fortrea combines decades of great experience and professionalism with new opportunities for clinical trial participation. It's more than a mission and more than a new name. Fortrea is dedicated to moving healthcare forward. To learn more about the future of healthcare and upcoming clinical trials, visit us at FortreaClinicalTrials.com. That's FORTREA clinicaltrials.com.
Matt Hamilton here to tell you about my friends at Revive Restoration. Nobody plans for accidents to happen, but when they do, you can count on Revive to be professional, efficient, and detail-oriented as they make things right again. Revive Restoration.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light on 100.5 ESPN. Brought to you by Ridgetop Exteriors. Throw It Back Thursday on Rutledge and Hamilton with Jim Rutledge and Matt Hamilton is brought to you by Twisted Tea. Regular iced tea's older, more fun sibling.
How much does it cost to talk to Gruber Law Offices after a serious crash? It's free. Yes, free. As in it won't cost you anything to speak with us. Not sure if you have a case? Call our team at Gruber Law Offices today. Your first call and your first consultation are always free. And you'll never pay us a fee until we win your case. If you've been seriously injured, call Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all.
Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light, continues live from the Everlight Solar Studio. Jim Rutledge alongside Colin Russo and Jesse Nelson. Brian Walsh on behind the glass. Get into the show, 844-770-3776.
A source close to Tausch's tier list confirming that he has the Washington Commanders on the same tier as the Giants, Seahawks, Lions, Packers, Falcons, and Vikings. Tier 3 in the NFC.
That's just too many teams per tier, no?
Ahead of the Bears and the Rams on tier 4.
It's like a throwaway tier. It's just too many bodies in there.
See, that's the glory of tiers. Is you can have as many as you want on any
I'm
specific
going to go ahead and say
level at
that
any
former
point.
Packer, former Badger, guy who grew up in Wisconsin, Mark Tauscher, maybe has some biases.
What? No. He told us this morning he was not looking at it through green and gold colored glasses, Jim. It was just very unbiased.
If he wasn't, then I think you'd tier Chicago and Green Bay together. I think those two teams are very similar. I think they're going in different directions. I think Chicago's plan is to be passing Green Bay, not this upcoming season, but the following one. And then Green Bay will try to do what they can. Because remember, Chicago got DJ Moore, and they got Carolina's first-round pick next year and Carolina's second-round pick next year.
So even next year. You're comparing that from this year.
But I'm saying if Justin Fields is bad, they can go and trade their first-round picks and Carolina's first-round picks to go get a quarterback. And that's the same thing that Green Bay's doing, though. If Jordan Love is bad, well, they can take their first-round pick.
Oh, they're definitely going to be in the sweepstakes.
Because here, I'll ask you guys this question, and you can chime in 844-770-3776. Would you rather a 8-win team make the playoffs or have a 4-win team and have an opportunity to have a brand new quarterback.
Yeah, 8 wins and you re-sign Jordan Love to a $20 million
And let's
a year
assume that
contract.
Jordan Love has a Mitch Trubisky type season where it's 24 touchdowns, 12 picks, 3,000 yards, and 65
Yeah,
seconds.
I just think he gets 2 years no matter what.
But
I
it
think
doesn't
that's
matter.
why they structured his deal before this year the way that they
if
did.
this team wins 4 games and they have the opportunity to draft, like my understanding going into this draft that Drake May and Williams from USC are viewed as franchise-changing QBs. So let's say I don't mean to put any bad juju on you, but let's say Jacksonville, let's say Trevor Lawrence gets hurt. So they end up with the first overall pick. They're not going to take Caleb Williams.
Right.
So now they're going to trade. They're willing to trade a king's ransom for it. Green Bay could give up a king's ransom for it. They're not going to do it if they won 7 games and snuck into the playoffs or 8 games.
It's a purgatory.
If they won 4 and Jordan Love looks meh, it would be, I would say, career suicide for Goody not to go get Williams.
It would be a tough sell if Jordan Love doesn't have a great year and you pass on Caleb Williams in that situation. I would agree with that. If it's the Arizona Cardinals did a couple years ago. If you have transcendent talent there, it doesn't matter what you've previously invested. You go get it.
Clearly wasn't transcendent, but yeah.
I don't think the Packers will be in that position. I don't think that
If Jordan Love, well, here's the weirder part. If Jordan Love gets hurt, but then still, I don't even care whatever you think of Jordan Love. He is already in a bad situation. Let's say Jordan Love plays 3 games, he gets hurt, Sean Clifford plays, and the team is as trashy as they absolutely could be, and they win 2 games.
Yeah.
So now you have Jordan Love, who is 1 year away from a payday, and you still don't know what he is, or Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
that's what they would do. They would go after a quarterback.
You have
you have to take Caleb Williams.
There's
in
enough
that case.
time that you give a guy where if they don't know in practice and they're like, we need game experience, that doesn't. If you don't know yet, you don't know.
You have to take Caleb Williams. I would still start Jordan Love next year, even though Caleb Williams has got to be better.
I would not do that.
I'd have
go
him
a
compete.
couple of games.
I'd have him compete in OTAs immediately.
By the end of September, Caleb Williams takes over. Yeah.
The Packers media and this station would not be happy if Caleb Williams was sitting on the bench week 1 with Jordan Love going out there.
That's fair, but I think Goody and his pride and just the way that it needs to be done.
So, if that's the case, then you're telling me you don't think Goody's a good GM? Because if he can't pocket pride for what is being viewed right now, Caleb Williams today, how we're viewing him as a Andrew Luck type prospect, that is being a horrendous GM because you're caring more about your pride than you are about building your team.
I know there's a term for it in movies or books. All I can think of is the Achilles heel. I don't know what it is in the specific film term. But I think Goody is a good GM with an Achilles heel, with a glaring weakness. A fatal flaw.
Yeah.
And his fatal flaw is Jordan Love. Yeah.
Well, is that then hubris?
Yeah.
To make it fully
But
theatrical.
it's not in every case. Like, he's moved on from Amari Rodgers. He's moved on from
that's an easier
some other players that he's
got to
drafted.
move on from than a first-round quarterback.
Exactly. I think Jordan Love and the investment that he made at the time that they made that investment is his fatal flaw.
Well, I'll give you this, and we have to go to break on it, but I believe it was Wildy who said that Goody was borderline ecstatic when he talked about Aaron Rodgers being gone, and Ted Thompson said this is a bad day for the Green Bay Packers. It was a good day for me because I was at Carbon World Health. I take semaglutide. I'm down. I actually measured myself, weighed myself, all the measurements today. 198 pounds, 10% body fat, as weight loss of about 26 pounds over the last 5 months, and that's combined with working out at Carbon World Health. Go sign up for the 6-week experience. Go ask about semaglutide and see if it can change your life. This is Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light.
How much does it cost to talk to Gruber Law Offices after a serious crash? It's free. Yes, free. As in it won't cost you anything to speak with us. Not sure if you have a case? Call our team at Gruber Law Offices today. Your first call and your first consultation are always free. And you'll never pay us a fee until we win your case. If you've been seriously injured, call Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all.
Hi, this is Dave Kane. You're listening to Madison's Home of the Bucks, a good Karma brand radio station, 100.5 ESPN WTLX, Monona, Madison.
Broadcasting live from the Everlight Solar Studio, this is your Metro Kia of Madison Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Madison. I'm Ryan Wollersheim, and this is your Sports Center update brought to you by Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin's Road America. Celebrate Father's Day at the NTT IndyCar Series June 15th through the 18th. Get your tickets today and check out the full season schedule at roadamerica.com. And the Packers on the road to the 2023 season. It's the final day of OTAs up in Green Bay, and today's sessions aren't open to the media, but you can catch up on all the OTA takeaways from ESPN's Rob Domovsky over at ESPNWisconsin.com. Badger basketball offseason moves as well over at ESPNWisconsin.com. ESPN's Jeff Borzello broke down the roster changes, departures, and newcomers for the 2023-24 season. Point guard Chucky Hepburn and Tyler Wall headlining the major returner players for the Badgers. Both those players appeared on Monday's edition of Rutledge and Hamilton. Listen back to those full appearances on Wisconsin On Demand or watch on ESPN Madison's YouTube page. Brewers looking to complete a 3-game sweep over the Baltimore Orioles right now over at AmFam Field. Looks like Colin Ray just gave up a home run in the top of the 6th inning. We'll see where they end up in a few hours.
Metro Kia of Madison, Madison's trusted Kia dealer. Stop into Metro Kia on the east side of Madison or metrokiaofmadison.com.
You got the show.
Everybody's ego takes a shot on this show.
This is Rutledge and Hamilton with Jim Rutledge and Matt Hamilton, presented by Coors Light on 100.5 ESPN.
Kids have chocolate and they have candy.
But chocolate is candy.
I think the clear differentiator is
There's not a differentiator. That's like saying strawberries or fruit. Which one would you rather have? This is a horrible take.
no, it's a correct take.
No, it's not. Chocolate is
Broadcasting
candy.
live from the Everlight Solar Studio. With Matt Hamilton, here's Jim Rutledge.
We are still breaking down Tauscher's terrible tiers here on Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light. It is a tier that was missing a team.
Poor Washington.
Just basically, he grabbed a handful of Skittles and put them all together with his tier with basically every team you could think of in it, and then just went out of his way to put the fact that he has Chicago below Atlanta in the tiers just is one of the bigger.
This is I understand, but that's a Chicago bias.
That's what I'm saying.
Well.
But I mean, like Chicago, if you went around the NFL going into this league, people would believe Chicago has a better chance to have a better record.
The quarterback makes a difference.
I agree
than
with
Atlanta.
Jim. The Bears are a better team than the Falcons.
On paper, going into it.
And you can't even really make the divisional opponent argument there because the South and the North are essentially in the same boats.
Chicago and Green Bay should be in the same tier. And I would say you could put L.A. in that tier. And then
that should be that.
Yeah, and then New Orleans should be in the same tier with the Giants, Seattle, Detroit,
and Minnesota.
I
think those are that. That's your. If you want a big tier, that's the one.
And and that tier is very much of teams that could go either way, but most likely the arrow's still pointing up on those teams. Count a lot of people pointed out, and they just love the stat that Minnesota won the most amount of one score games of all time.
They won at Buffalo, so they win big games. But I understand the point.
Yeah, but I get that point, but I also say, like, now it's a whole new year.
And it's it's the second year under the head coach. That makes a difference.
It does.
That's huge.
Well, it's one of the reasons I'm excited down in Chicago, too, especially with an improved defense there, that now they have a second year, and they're putting in more and more players of what they have. So I want to hear from Colin Cowherd. He, yesterday, not nice things to say on his radio show about the Green Bay Packers.
I think we're going into what the Packers were in the 80s, kind of irrelevant. They don't have a great quarterback. It's increasingly a quarterback league. This is not a time when if you had, 10, 15 years ago, great running back and great defense, you could be a dominating team. Those days are over. So I looked this morning. I'm moving to 6-11 with the Green Bay Packers. I was trying to be very positive. I got them at 6 wins this morning. I went to the schedule. And I don't think that's negative.
Ooh. And I have them probably that 6 to 8 window. This is kind of I do like specific how many games they're going to win. I just think 6 to 8. I think their ceiling is lower. I think most likely if I was looking at a window, I'd go 6 to 8 for Green Bay and Chicago. Minnesota, I'd probably go somewhere like 7 to 10, and then Detroit, I'd probably go somewhere like 8 to 11. The wild card there is Chicago, and I don't think it's going to happen, but if Fields makes the jump that Hurts or Josh Allen made, well, then they're the team that could blow the whole thing up. Now, I think they're going to be more likely a 6 to 8 win team, but that is the one thing that Chicago has that we don't know Green Bay has, is that for the first time ever, that quarterback could be the guy. I don't know. I have no idea. Justin Fields, all he's showing is he can run the football right now, but he made dramatic jumps from year 1 to year 2. So if he can improve as a passer with much better talent around him, that's a team that could surprise. But again, I'm still putting them on the same tier as Green Bay as 6 to 8 win team.
They should be. They had a bad year last year. And I as for what Coward was saying, the narrative surrounding it's a little much, with the 80s, irrelevant and all that stuff, and the running back and the defense. That has worked in the past. Example, 2017 Jaguars, but who's talking about that? Point is... Bortles. Point is, it's
not repeatable.
It's not, the 6 to win window is not that's believable to me. I don't think that's the hardest thing in the world to believe.
The fact that people like to point out the Ravens and the Giants of old and the Jaguars of 17 and the Titans a couple of years ago is because you can point them out because they stand out in the crowd.
And most of those teams, and again, an expert in this is Chicago, I mean, Trubisky's team was a lot of running and defense, and that team won the division. They lost in the playoffs. They didn't get far enough.
The quarterbacks win
and
the playoffs.
And Jacksonville, they ran out of gas with Bortles.
They were a possession away from going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
If we really had to go to that. If Coward wasn't thinking about that.
But I'm saying that, in the end, you still need the quarterback.
Yeah.
But to the point of, okay, Minnesota, were they 12-0 in one-score games? Chicago's 1-7 in one-score games.
Mm-hmm.
That usually doesn't repeat itself.
Yeah,
so that's a team that all of a sudden
just got to figure out how to win.
You add, let's say they split the difference. Now they won 3 more there. So now they're at 6 without trying very hard. You just win a few more of those.
So
games.
here's my thing with the 6 wins from Coward. I don't think he's necessarily wrong. I think if you're arbitrarily just assessing the talent on the Green Bay Packers roster and the change that they're experiencing based on what they were last year, it's very easy to look and say that was an 8-win team last year. They should probably be about a 6-win team this year. But when you factor in the schedule that they're playing and what the NFC big picture is, as we've talked about all day with Tausch's tiers, and when you factor in the history of the head coach and the team that's had success except for last year under his regime, that's what I start to consider when I think they may lose a game or two that they shouldn't, but they should also win a game or two that you wouldn't expect them to. When Kansas City comes to town or when they go to Pittsburgh or something like that. Like, there will be a game or two in there that I think the Packers steal.
Do you think the Packers have a top 10 defense this year?
No.
Because that's the only way they're
but
stealing those games.
I'd say 12, 13. Like, I think they're just outside the top
But that's where they've always been. But they've had Aaron Rodgers to give them a lead, so then they can play downhill, and then they can play a little differently.
But, again, those are in years where the NFC is more balanced. The NFC isn't balanced this year. The
but
AFC has all
talked about
the
them beating
talent.
KC and Detroit. You're talking about those upsets.
I did mention 2 AFC teams.
So that's
probably
why I was
not my
asking
best argument. Yes, when you look at Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota, let's just use those 6 games as an example. Normally, the Packers would backtrack from where they were last year. You'd say, okay, if they won 3 divisional games last year, they're probably going to win 2 this year. Because those teams have also either gotten worse or are still not proven to be better than the Packers with where they're at going into this year, they could win 3 or 4 division games. They could win 1, but they could win 4. And that's just the landscape of the NFC this year. And until we get a couple weeks into the season, it's going to be really difficult to know where everyone's going to stand. I'm just giving my best projections like Tausch was,
and
like
with,
Colin Coward.
With these projections, what you'd expect from the NFC being the way it's laid out is a lot of these games are going to be close games. How does this team fare in close games?
Right.
The difference between good teams and bad teams, you want to bring it back to Jim's stat with the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings, is how they are in close games. The Vikings, before they were 11-0 in close games or whatever it was, they were 6-8 in close games the year before when they went 8-9. Good teams know how to win a close game. That's the difference. If you think that's luck, that's a losing mentality. You're a fan of a losing team.
The only difference is just like the Badgers in 2017. If the Packers are playing a lot of one-score games this year, which they very well might, given the landscape of the conference, I would rather have the Packers up 3 with the defense on the field in the final 2 minutes rather than down 3 with the offense out there.
And you're probably going to get a mix of both.
And again, I'll go back to because of the way the Packers built. This is the biggest reason why I would have a concern about the Packers. The way they built their roster, there's not depth there, and not bringing back Mason Crosby to go with an inconsistent rookie, a guy who's inconsistent in college as your rookie kicker, says to me, we don't care if we win those games. We don't because here's the other part of it. God's honest truth, Packer fans. If Jordan Love shows promise and the team wins 4 games, you're fine. You're fine with that season, and that's not out of the realm of possibility either. Jordan Love could show some promise as being a good NFL quarterback, and the team could still win 4 games. They won 6 with Aaron Rodgers, and he had a hell of a season. And that team was coming off an NFC Championship game. This is an 8-win football team. And they had a Hall of Fame quarterback playing at a fringe Pro Bowl level. And now you've subbed him out for a youngster. And when Aaron Rodgers came in, he was taking over a team that played in the NFC Championship game.
What's the minimum number of wins you think that the Packers could? The fewest amount that they could win,
5,
but feel good about Jordan Love.
That's a 5.
5?
For me. Yeah.
Like
I think they can have a really bad year.
So again, I get it's different. Chicago feels good about Fields. He won 3.
3
but
last
there
year, right?
it was a lot of he went out there
and he ran around.
Yeah, but he never asked off. He was a clear, unquestioned leader of that team immediately. He never asked out of these games. The other part of it is why I said 3. It's all circumstances. During that year, at the end of the season, when the Bears were playing the Packers, it was Equanimeous St. Brown and Darnell Pettis as the Bears' top receivers. And then they were down to like their 3rd or 4th offensive lineman in some spots. So if Jordan Love is rolling out there and Watson and Dobbs are hurt, and now you're rolling out there with Reed and God knows
Samari
who.
Toure. Yeah.
Right. Well, then all of a sudden it looks and feels a little like, so there's so many different aspects to it that if guys are getting hurt and it's not even David Bakhtiari, it's Yash and Jenkins and then God knows who in the middle, like that all matters.
Yeah. Roster construction, that's how can you put your quarterback in the best position to win? The Bears obviously are making steps that way. Teams like all over the league, that's what they do. Get a offensive line in front of the quarterback, give him a running game, give him a couple receivers that could bail him out here and there. Where is the Packers' protection in terms of like roster offensive construction? Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, are they bailout receivers? No. Can they be good receivers? Sure. But I wouldn't call them a bailout type player. They have 2 good running backs. Yep. How's the offensive line? He could get banged around. Like you need protection. Not in the literal sense from the offensive line. You need protection from the players around you in terms of the skill positions as well.
How many we don't know the answer to it. How many sacks did Aaron Rodgers save by changing the protection?
Yeah. And getting the ball out quick.
Yep. Changing the play.
He's your protection. Rodgers was the protection of the offense. Now you got the offense needing to protect Love. It's a complete flip in their offensive philosophy. That's a major problem. LaFleur definitely sees that.
And I'm trusting Matt LaFleur to scheme accordingly for that. That's why I think that they can still find some level of success this year.
Yeah.
Not saying it's going to be nearly as good as it was before last year or as it was last year, but they can have a level of success because I trust the head coach.
Yeah. The unshriveled optimism in LaFleur is good. I don't think LaFleur is an all-time head coach, but now it's, like I said before, it's a complete flip in where your protection lies. It's no longer the quarterback position protecting everyone else. It's everybody else protecting the quarterback position. So now you got a lot of nerve, and you put more pressure on the floor as well. You're really going to see what he's made of this season. And I don't think he's that great of a coach, but it's the idea that you no longer have a bailout at the quarterback position.
Yeah, the last time he led an offense without Aaron Rodgers, the Tennessee Titans were pretty awful.
Yeah.
I think it was like 26 or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Horrendous.
Yeah.
He's and he doesn't win. He doesn't win many big games, and that's what happens. They turned 3 straight 13-win seasons. I get it. Congratulations.
You got to give him the benefit of the doubt, but the jury's out on LaFleur.
Yes,
there totally is.
I think this year is all about Matt LaFleur. I think this year is more than it is about Jordan Love. I think it's about Matt LaFleur.
Rodgers took off the spotlight of LaFleur usually because they had Rodgers in the mix. Rodgers would never throw LaFleur under the bus. It was always everybody else on the team. Now it's all LaFleur. Jordan Love, everybody's going to look to him, oh, he might just stink. Well, LaFleur, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Major problem.
LaFleur would be the next chip to fall. If you're Goody and you're looking at how to create this roster with you have.
Love goes first.
Does a 5-win season blow it all up?
No.
I could see LaFleur going after this year. I couldn't see Jordan Love going after this year.
I could see both. If they go after Williams, they're going to go after somebody else.
That's most likely.
Or if they go after another quarterback is my question.
I guess that's fair. Yeah,
that's probably the most likely scenario. We're going to talk with Eric Name from The Athletic coming up at 3:30. Talk about the Bucs hire. They also hired 2 new assistants to go along with Terry Stotts. They hired Joe Prunty, and they also hired Patrick Mutombo. No relation to Dikembe. And look, there's Chris Paul rumors out there. Where's Chris Paul going to end up?
I think he's going to go back to the Suns.
I think he will too. I'd love to see him in a lot of different places.
I saw the Bulls. Someone tweeted something about the Bulls yesterday.
He can't make it through a season. I don't love the appeal of him is not that great. He can't make it through a season. He's not the athlete he once was. Sure, he's a good leader in the regular season when he plays.
Yep.
He's not available.
This is Rutledge and Hamilton presented by Coors Light.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light. Miss any of the show? Find full show podcasts free on Wisconsin On Demand and wherever you get your podcasts.
Ben Brust here to tell you about why your next work van should be from Mercedes-Benz Sprinter at Zimbrick European. First off, we have versatility. The Sprinter vans offer 16 body types and thousands of ways to customize that space. Number 2, we have reliability. Sprinter's most powerful diesel engines last longer and require less maintenance, spend more time on the road and less time in those bays. Number 3, we have safety. Sprinter's safety technologies include curtain airbags all around, load adaptive electronic stability program, and crosswind and attention assist. Number 4, Van Care Mobile. Our maintenance team can come to you with routine service. Who wants to go in? Let them come to you. They work with multiple trucks on one visit. Use the Mercedes Me Connect. And last but not least, get your Zimbrick Sprinter at Zimbrick European at Rimrock Road and the Beltline, or go online at ZimbrickEuropean.com because they never charge over the MSRP.
Wendy's is open till midnight or later, so you can give in to the craving and go night mode. Now all of your favorite menu items just got their bedtime extended. You can get what you want even later, like the Baconator with 6 strips of bacon, or the perfect fries and Frosty Duo. If you're up later, then so are we. So go ahead and pull through the drive-thru. When the craving hits, go night mode at Wendy's. Open till midnight or later. All right, see ya later.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, hours may vary.
Hey, Jay, can you finish that induction range installation tomorrow?
Orders have really amped up at Nate's Electric.
We need to finish installing it first in Maine. Did we hear back from the grocery chain?
It's no shock he needs electricians, like yesterday.
Smart fridge. Everybody wants one of those these days.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Mark Tosher here to tell you all about PrizePicks' $1 million daily Superflex promotion. Every day of the NBA playoffs and finals, one PrizePicks user will win a chance at becoming a millionaire. Here's how you can win big. One entry placed after 8 a.m. Eastern will be randomly selected each day, and whoever placed that entry will be given a 6-pick flex. 4 correct picks is $16,000. 5 correct is $80,000. And if you get all 6 picks correct, you could win $1 million. Full details are at prizepicks.com/million. You must opt in at this link to be eligible for the $1 million entry. And once you opt in, all you have to do is play the game like normal, and you could be the lucky winner. If you're new to PrizePicks, let me give you a quick rundown. Pick multiple players and decide if they will score more or less than their PrizePicks projection. You can win up to 25 times your money on any entry, and there is no competition against anyone. Just you against the projections by visiting prizepicks.com, or you can download the mobile app.
LabCorp Clinical Trials is changing to a new name, Fortrea. While the name may be different, Fortrea combines decades of great experience and professionalism with new opportunities for clinical trial participation. It's more than a mission and more than a new name. Fortrea is dedicated to moving healthcare forward. To learn more about the future of healthcare and upcoming clinical trials, visit us at FortreaClinicalTrials.com. That's FORTREA clinicaltrials.com.
North and South Seafood and Smokehouse is the official barbecue and seafood and smokehouse of Rutledge and Hamilton. Make sure to listen every Wednesday for your chance to win a $50 gift card to North and South Seafood and Smokehouse in Madison, Verona, and DeForest. North and South Seafood and Smokehouse.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton on 100.5 ESPN. Brought to you by Carbon World Health.
No, don't get stressed, just gon' get figured out. Oh, deep conversation that the wife allows. Headstrong father and a determined mother. Oh, that's why some nights we try to kill each other. But you know it's always love.
Rutledge and Hamilton continues live from the Everlight Solar Studio. Russo, Nelson, and Rutledge with you. You can get into the show, 844-770-3776. Let's throw some stones.
The guys think they have the answers to everything.
I'm the best there is.
People like me.
So it's time to put them to the test.
That's some booty, Jim.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
This is Throwing Stones, presented by Metro Kia of Madison, Madison's trusted Kia dealership.
Well, how's it going today, guys? Haven't had much to say.
Wally. Hello, Ryan.
We got a lot of people in the studio. I gotta be quiet back here. But it is time to throw some stones here on Rutledge and Hamilton. Every day, I waste a ton of time scrolling Twitter. Leaves me with a lot more questions than answers, and lucky for me, I got 3 people to help answer them for me today. So I'll throw the questions out to you, and at the end of the segment, we will crown a winner of Throwing Stones. So I'll go ahead and start with the possibly most dangerous collab of 2023. I don't know if you guys saw this, but are you guys familiar with the liquor Malort? No, Chicago fame.
Yeah, I know it. It's like a black licorice.
It's a black licorice. It's known as possibly the most disgusting liquor available.
And I believe that most Chicagoans would tell you it is a tourist drink more than an actual Chicago drink.
Yes. It's like one of those things you have to drink when you're in Chicago, but it's apparently terrible. But they've announced a new collaboration. Yesterday, Four Loko tweeted out that they are joining forces. So
That's the last thing you wanted to hear.
I ask you guys, does the FDA need to step in and stop this, or is this something that we think should be allowed? Jim, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, people can't be trusted. You need to step in and you put the kibosh on this. This sounds like a horrendous idea. I guess the only thing is that I think the alcohol tastes so bad that maybe it just won't be drank.
It's absolutely brutal. The first time I ever had Malort, I was out in Chicago on a Saturday night, and my friend goes, "Oh, you ever had Malort?" I said, "No, what's that?" Made that mistake, and we'll never make that mistake again. It is one of the most disgusting things I have ever tasted.
Was this at your dad chiller party that you had a couple weeks ago?
This was years ago. This was years ago. I've been off the Malort for a long time, Willie. It's been terrible.
Okay.
My question is, how do these things stay in business? Like, and even for Loco, did they the FBI whatever the administration was that oversight?
Yeah,
they're like, you can't put caffeine in this. It was like too dangerous.
I believe there was a number of college students who passed away, unfortunately, because of this drink.
Terrible.
I mean,
and it's still a thing. It's amazing. Yeah, get rid of that altogether.
So I just Googled it, and it says, people always ask, what does Malort taste like? Malort is famously challenging to drink with flavors that include notes of gasoline.
Oh, my God.
Grapefruit, sweat, wax, fire, mineral oil, and bitterness.
Yeah, it's kind of all that at once.
That's an incredible mashup.
Yep.
So it's like the hot dog of just like liquors.
No,
just
hot dogs taste good.
Oh, yeah, but you take all the worst parts of like the pig and the cow and just throw them all together.
So it is a traditional Swedish spirit made with wormwood and other botanicals. And it was Carl Jeppsson, a Swedish immigrant who moved to Chicago and started producing his own version of it and then selling it. Jeppsson's Malort is the brand. Which is weird because I do not think of Swedish when I think of Chicago. Like, I would think Greek and
Irish.
Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, interesting Malort, but I
will not be dabbling in that mashup.
It's led to some bad decisions, we can say the least. And I think Jason Tatum might have had a bad tweet last night as well. He tweeted out, the new Spider-Man movie is so good. Deuce, famously his son, Deuce Tatum, who's 5 or 6, I think, I want to say. He said that Deuce told me, Daddy, I think I changed my mind. I might want to grow up and be Spider-Man when I grow up, but I still want to be you. And then Jason finished the tweet with, good save, son, good save. So, I ask you guys, is Jason Tatum just lying that his son actually said this to him, or is Deuce capping about wanting to still be his dad? Colin, I'll start with you.
So how old is this kid? He's like 2, 3 years old?
I believe he's like
5,
4
maybe?
or 5 at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. He's very young.
So like the idea that he wants to be Spider-Man is completely believable in my eyes. Him wants to be his dad. Maybe he just wants to toot his horn a little bit. He understands the NBA guys; they're divas. They want to be. They want people to stroke them out a little bit and make sure they feel good. So maybe his son understands that at this point of his life.
Hey now.
Did you say stroke them out?
Stroke their egos.
Stroke their egos.
Am I the only one who, like, when I was a kid, I never wanted to be the superhero because I thought the superhero was already the superhero. Like, I couldn't be Batman. Bruce Wayne was already Batman.
Well, you haven't seen Across the Spider-Verse, obviously.
No, once we get into multiverses, I can't comprehend it very well. I think the kid actually said this, and I credit Jason Tatum for tweeting it out and sharing it with the world, because I do believe that this interaction likely transpired last night, especially that he was watching Into the Spider-Verse or whatever it is.
Instead of the finals.
Yeah.
I would say my 6-year-old would say something similar. She's always sweet, and if she says something that like we will feign like being upset at, to like if she says something like, "Oh, I love you, Dad, and my wife will be like, and then she'll be like, but I love you too. So like I do see this kind of happening, or they'll try to realize like, wait, I didn't want to offend you, even though you're not actually offended.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to offend him,
but not as cleanly. At 4 years old, not as cleanly as Tatum.
5 years old. I just looked
5
at
years
it.
old.
He's 5 years old.
Still not as cleanly as Tatum is describing it.
No.
Like that is too thought out. It was probably more like, I want to be Spider-Man. Tatum gave him a look, goes, oh, but I want to be you too, Dad or Daddy. You know what I mean? Like that was based. That's how
it's
that
funny
happened.
that Jason's probably giving him that look after a 5-year-old says he wants to be Spider-Man.
Right.
Like he gets all like his ego is just torn down a little bit.
Yeah, Jason feeding him his lines, but nobody was feeding Jim Rutledge lines today. He was just feeding us knowledge about Malort's, the history of one of the greatest strengths in the history of Chicago. So well done, Jim. You are today's winner of Throwing Stars.
That is interesting.
If Malort means he gets the win, then so be it.
I'm not taking a shot of it, I'll tell you that. We'll talk to Eric Name. We'll ask him if he's ever tried it when he's made a trip down to Chicago. This is Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light. The mountains are blue, and we can prove it. Follow the show on Twitter at Jim and Matt.
Gold medalist Matt Hamilton here to tell you about Wisconsin's best choice for roofing, siding, windows, and doors, Ridgetop Exteriors. I know they're the trusted local experts who consider customer service their #1 goal, but don't just take my word for it. Jake and Dawn are both recent customers who left 5-star reviews for the outstanding service and quality of work on their projects. Get a free estimate for your home project today by logging on to ridgetopexteriors.com. Visit ridgetopexteriors.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about washing your car? Right now, you can get the Armor All Ultimate Car Care Detailing 8-piece kit for only $25. That's soap, a wash mitt, wheel cleaner, tire shine, glass wipes, and interior wipes, all together in a bucket. Give your car the shine it deserves at the right price, only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Imagine you're looking at a balancing scale with everything you do for other people on one side and everything you do for yourself on the other side. If it isn't balanced, maybe it's time to spend a little more time on you. And therapy is a great place to start. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist online who can help you find that balance and stick to it. Visit betterhelp.com/score to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/score.
Join us at the Madison Parade of Homes, exclusively sponsored by Nuns, June 16th to 25th. Visit and get inspired. Go to MadisonParadeOfHomes.com and purchase your tickets today.
One Mississippi, two Mississippi.
Keep counting at those stop signs, Alex. Full stop and doesn't go until she counts to 5, McSweeney. Because you are a safe driver. And like most drivers who sign up for Snapshot from Progressive, which customizes your rate for how and how much you drive, you could earn a discount for your good driving. So don't turn into an Alex rolling stop and goes whenever she wants, McSweeney. Because once an Alex full stop and doesn't go until she counts to 5, McSweeney, always an Alex full stop. Well, you know the rest. Sign up for Snapshot today.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in all states or from all agents.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the 4-day super sale, June 9th through the 12th, and get 40% off paints and stains with prices starting at $26.69. That means 40% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 40% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
The happy hour at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Middleton is still Madison's best kept secret, so shh. From delicious appetizers to amazing drinks, and of course the ambiance provided by that horseshoe bar makes Ruth's Chris Steakhouse a must-go-to. From cocktails with friends, networking happy hours, or just treating the family, and everything in between. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Middleton has everything you're looking for. So the next time you're looking to treat yourself, go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Middleton. And remember, it's Madison's best kept secret. Shh.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton on 100.5 ESPN. Brought to you by Ho Chunk Gaming Madison.
Basketball, gimme the ball because I'm gonna dunk it!
Locked in on the Bucks.
No, never in a million years.
Bringing the insight and the analysis.
I do hate charge calls.
2022 Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year, Eric Name of The Athletic, is on Rutledge and Hamilton.
Let's hop into it quickly with Eric Name from The Athletic. A very busy man, I am sure. This is Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light. We're live from the Everlight Solar Studio. Jim Rutledge alongside Colin Russo and Jesse Nelson. Ryan Wollersheim behind the glass. And we have Eric Name on the line. And Eric, I'll start with this, the obvious question after getting some press conference time and some FaceTime with Adrian Griffin. What are your thoughts? And we haven't talked to you since the hire's been made, so kind of just give us the timeline and what you think about him.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think it was interesting that the Bucks ultimately opted for first-time head coach, and that was something that John Horst mentioned during the press conference. That going into it, they probably had a bias toward a head coach with experience, with someone that's done it before. And he said, we tried our best to fight any biases we might have had in that process, and ultimately we came away thinking that Adrian Griffin was the guy. And throughout that press conference, he kept mentioning that his assistant GM Milt Newton kept saying like, "Hey, Adrian's a head coach; he just hasn't gotten the opportunity yet." And that was the sentence that really stuck with John Horst. And I think to me that's going to be the interesting thing to kind of watch this year is if that is actually factual, if this is, a job that Adrian Griffin was put on this earth to do, because we don't know. We know that he can be a successful assistant coach, but we have not seen him sit in the big chair yet. And I think that's going to be something that's really interesting to watch. I thought one of the interesting things that we heard in that press conference was, and again, different people will view this different ways. There could be someone that views this as a negative personality trait. But I'm someone that tends to think that, hey, if you don't have the answers, hire someone that does and make sure that they can help you out. And, that was one thing that Adrian Griffin mentioned a couple times on Tuesday was, I don't have all the answers, but John and I are going to work together to, form a really strong coaching staff and make sure that there's people that I can lean on. And, if they don't have the answers either, we can do the research and we can come to, a decision that makes sense for the team. And I think you're kind of seeing that as you watch the coaching staff that is being assembled around Adrian Griffin. Obviously, Terry Stotts was something that they confirmed on Tuesday. Joe Prunty and Patrick Mutombo, Adrian Wojnarowski at ESPN reported today, and that's something that we can confirm at The Athletic. Those two joined the staff as well. You look at Stotts and Prunty. Prunty's been an assistant coach for, I believe, about 30 years now at this point. He's someone that knows the league inside out. He was in Milwaukee when Jason Kidd was here and helped out a first-time coach then. He'll be doing that again with Adrian Griffin. And Terry Stotts is someone that's won hundreds of NBA games. And when he was in Portland, that was a top 10 offense nearly every season that he was there. They went to the playoffs 8 straight years. That's a dude that can really coach, and I think someone that, can help out when Adrian Griffin does have those questions and does need a little bit of guidance. To have that type of experience on the bench with him, I think is just going to be huge. And personally, I think that's great. Other people might say, why can't my head coach just have all the answers, right? Like, why don't I have the guy that knows it all? And we'll see how it ends up going. But I did end up having kind of that takeaway that, okay, it's interesting that they went with a first-time coach, but this first-time head coach really, to me, seems to understand how to delegate, how to put this together, and how to collaborate to get the job done and put the Bucks in a position to compete for championships.
Eric, Colin Russo here. It's interesting that you said that, a first-time head coach, which is sort of a leap of faith in a sense, getting a guy for a team that most people think is win now ready, and they got their superstar, and they're trying to capitalize on that prime he's in. But there's a lot of questions surrounding this roster as well. There's a lot of free agents in the mix. You obviously got the player options coming up. This is going to be a daunting task. You got Giannis, but all the other pieces here and there, is it going to be in his interest to kind of make some changes there? Or is he going to try to bring back the core that won so many games last year? Or is he going to try to change things up and see what type of options he could go into to kind of complement Giannis and their core players?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. In the press conference, we're kind of asked about the talent and expectations. Adrian Griffin very quickly brought up the fact that they have 4 players at the top of the roster that could be or have been number one options for teams before. And then by name, he mentioned Giannis Antetokounmpo, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez. And as you mentioned, 2 of those people, Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez, do have decisions to make this summer. They have to figure some things out. Chris Middleton has a player option for $40.4 million that he can choose to accept by June 21st, or he can opt out and he can still sign an extension with the Bucks, or he could sign elsewhere. And that's a big option. And today at The Athletic, Shams and I reported that, Chris had undergone successful surgery on his right knee shortly after the Bucks were eliminated from the playoffs this season to kind of address some of the issues that he was dealing with throughout this season. And, I think there's a lot of questions about what Chris can be going forward, but there's also the realities of the Bucks cap situation. If the Bucks or Chris Middleton, if Chris decides to opt out, or if the Bucks, decide that, hey, even if he opts out, we don't want to work an extension with him, they're not just going to have $40 million to spend. They're already over the cap. They won't be able to sign someone else. And I think that's always kind of the thing you have to keep in mind, that with this Bucks team, because of Giannis's Supermax extension, which was the biggest in NBA history at the time that he signed it a few years back, and because of the extension they signed Drew Holiday to, and because of the dollars for Middleton and for Brook Lopez, this is a team that is already over the cap. They're not going to have cap space, and largely the option is bring Chris Middleton back or go sign a veteran minimum. And no matter what someone thinks of Chris Middleton, his future, what it's going to look like after the cleanup procedure he had done on his right knee, he's a whole heck of a lot better than any veteran minimum you're going to find that's out there on the market. So I do think, it's really a situation. And with Brook Lopez, the Bucks can sign him to a 3-year, $54 million deal if they want to before free agency starts, or he can go in free agency and be open to an even bigger deal from other teams and things like that. But again, there's going to be people that, maybe want the Bucks to play a slightly different style of defense. Maybe they want the Bucks defense to not lean on Brook Lopez so much after, a season in which he finished runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. I think it's crazy, but some people might want that. I get it. He's big, he's tall, and, he's a little bit on the slow side. So people could want those changes, but I think overwhelmingly the reality of the cap suggests there's just not a ton of options out there. You can lose those guys. You can decide to go into a different direction. But because of the way that the salary cap is set up, you're just not going to be able to spend a whole lot of money on those guys. And when you're talking about Chris Middleton, you're talking about Brook Lopez, you're talking about 2 of the top guys at their respective positions around the league.
Eric, we've been talking a lot about NFL and specifically NFC teams and their tiers today here on the show. Would you say that the Boston Celtics, I think we were clearly a tier 1. Miami, they've both been in the conference finals the last year. I'd say they're both tier 1 in the Eastern Conference. With the changes the Bucks have made or are expected to make, and the changes that teams around the conference will make throughout the rest of this offseason, would you say going into next year the Bucks will still be a tier 1 team in the Eastern Conference contending for a title?
I mean, it would be really hard for me to imagine them not being in that tier. Obviously, as I just went over, they could lose Chris Middleton. They could lose Brook Lopez. I don't think either of those things are incredibly likely. So I do think that the Bucks will have much of the same roster at the top, at least, that they had last year. And if they have that, they're going to be in that same tier. And I do think you put them in there. It is the 3 teams that have represented the Eastern Conference in the finals the last 4 seasons, and the Bucks and the Heat and the Celtics. I think those are probably the teams that you're talking about on that top tier. And I think where it gets interesting is, there's a real possibility that, maybe the Celtics aren't there. Jaylen Brown has a big decision to make this offseason. The Celtics have a big decision to make if they want to offer him the Supermax and over $200 million. And they have to make that decision, and Jaylen Brown has to decide if he wants to be in Boston long term. There's a possibility that he's not there. James Harden has a big decision to make this offseason. You're looking at the Sixers team, who we haven't talked about, who was also at the top of the East, but they could lose James Harden, and for them it's a Chris Middleton situation where they don't have money to go get somebody else. If they lose him, he's gone. There's no replacing that level of talent. And again, no matter what you think of James Harden, he's a whole heck of a lot better than a veteran minimum. So I think for the Bucks, if you have Giannis, you have Drew. No matter what, you're going to be in that tier because Giannis, no matter what Jokic is doing right now, is right there along with Jokic as, the two best players on the planet at the moment. So you're always going to be in that area. But I do think with the way rosters move around and what the Bucks will ultimately do this offseason, I think there's plenty of reason to believe that they're going to be in that same tier, which really puts them at, 6 years of being on that tier in the Eastern Conference. And it says a lot about how good Giannis has been and how good the team they've put around Giannis has been for the last 6 years.
Talking with Eric Dame from The Athletic, I just got to throw this out there. I think I saw Javon Carter might be looking for a contract otherwise or elsewhere. Means they could use a backup point guard. Chris Paul, what percentage you putting on that?
Yeah. I think it's a very intriguing option. I do think Chris Paul probably has better relationships with a lot of other teams around the league and other players around the league. And that's not to say, it's bad between him and Giannis or Drew or Chris or Brooke. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, he has friends out there, and none of those friends are currently on the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think there's a very real possibility that he goes back to the Suns just at a cheaper deal and they figure out something that way. I also think there's a real possibility that he goes to the Los Angeles Lakers and he gets to team up with LeBron James and they kind of get to see how all of that goes as well. So I would say pretty low odds on him coming to the Milwaukee Bucks, not necessarily because of the Bucks doing anything wrong or, the organization having any defects, just Chris Paul kind of enjoying other franchises a little bit more.
Yeah, Eric, it's based on my analysis of what you just said. The Bucks, their situation really is they got a new coach, hopefully an experienced staff around him. Hopefully they can help him grow and kind of fit into his own. But in terms of financially, their hands are tied. They don't really have a choice other than to run it back with the guys they got really at hand with them. Am I reading that?
I think that's certainly true at the very top of the roster. I think when you look at this roster overall, there is a new collective bargaining agreement going into effect this summer that has more punitive penalties for how far you get up over the cap. And there's something called the second cap apron, which is going to be in there as well. And the Bucks are going to flirt with that line. And the easiest way to not flirt with that line is to probably turn, one of their mid-level contracts, which is guys like Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, Bobby Portis, turning one of those three guys from someone that makes, I think $9 to $12 million a year to someone that makes 4 or 5 or a rookie contract or whatever that may be. So as far as roster redo, remake, to me, the spot that I think people really have to look out for this offseason is kind of in the middle section of the roster. But also, that's something that's going to be happening around the league. I think the goal with the new CBA was to hopefully spread out the top talent in the league, fewer teams with 3 max guys or near max guys, and make it, only 2 max guys, and then you still have the healthy middle class. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think around the league you're going to see teams say, all right, we'll just do 3 maximum guys, and then the rest of the roster is minimum guys. And that's just how we're going to go about it. So I don't think the Bucks will be the only team in the league thinking that exact same thing that I just laid out, where, okay, maybe we can move someone from the middle of our cap sheet to the bottom of our cap sheet. So to me, if you're looking for the Bucks roster remake, that's kind of the area to look at.
They just got to do what the Heat do and just get a bunch of undrafted free agents. And then just...
Yeah, it's so easy.
I mean that is certainly a question. That's the second question I asked in the press conference 30 minutes in was like, hey, in Toronto, they're known for that.
Yeah.
That's something that they do very well with their G League franchise and kind of undrafted guys and second round guys and just kind of churning roster spots out of the bottom of the roster. That's something that the Raptors were very good at, and I do certainly think when you look at what the Bucks are going to have to try to do, that needs to play a bigger role. That needs to be something with the new CBA that the Bucks are consistently getting talent and getting production out of the bottom of the roster. And I don't think it's any sort of accident that they pick someone from a franchise that has been doing that for the last 5 to 10 years.
Eric, awesome stuff as always. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
That's Eric Name from The Athletic. Read everything he's written about Adrian Griffin and keep you up to date on the Bucks' new hire. You missed any of that? Listen back. Wisconsin On Demand, Apple, Spotify, those great places. Brought to you by Revive Restoration, RevivePros.com. If you have smoke, water damage, mold remediation needs, whether your home or business, go to RevivePros.com. This is Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light.
You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light, a finalist for Best of Madison Radio Team. Vote at channel3000.com. People really like this show. Rah. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin present your Badger Minute. Here's Alex Strofe.
Varsity on Wisconsin On Demand is home to all the latest and best Badgers content on ESPN Wisconsin. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Wisconsin On Demand, and wherever you get your podcasts. Wisconsin basketball star forward Tyler Wall was on Rutledge and Hamilton on 100.5 ESPN Madison earlier this week and discussed his decision to come back for a 5th year.
Did I want to transfer? Did I want to come back? Did I want to go professional? And so basically what it came down to is I feel like we have a good group of guys coming back. We basically have everyone coming back. We were kind of a young team last year, but we got a lot of experience, just the group of guys and the coaches that we have.
Find the full interview with Tyler Wall on Wisconsin On Demand or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Rutledge and Hamilton.
Pella's window and door design options are virtually limitless. Customize your order by August 31st and you could bundle and save big at PellaWI.com.
If you're looking to purchase, finance, or service a new or pre-owned Honda, buy local. Shop Zimbrick Honda. Their customer service is second to none, and you can experience it for yourself at 2 convenient Madison service locations on Fish Hatchery Road and Grand Canyon Drive. Oil changes, brakes, alignments, and warranties. Honda's certified technicians handle it all. And if you need new tires, buy 3 and get the 4th for just $1 when they mount and balance them for you. Zimbrick Honda Service Center on Fish Hatchery Road and Grand Canyon Drive. Part of the Madison community since 1973. Shop Zimbrick Honda.
Olson Toon has been customizing both residential and commercial outdoor living spaces since 1997. Matt Hamilton here from ESPN Madison. For over 50 years of combined experience in their management and design teams, Olson Toon has become one of Wisconsin's premier building and landscaping outdoor living firms. Landscaping and maintenance, irrigation, concrete work, pools, and more. If you have an outdoor living need, Olson Toon is here to help. Go to olsontoon.com to get started on your home project today. That's olsontoon.com.
Life's better with an auto policy from American Family Insurance. No matter what dreams you're driving towards. That's because our expert agents will make you feel totally protected with the right auto coverage at the right price. You'll also save up to 23% when you bundle auto with home. American Family Insurance. Get a quote, find an agent at amfam.com.
Products not available in every state. Visit amfam.com to learn how discounts may apply to you. American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating company, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max want to hear from you.
Rodney in Massachusetts wants to defend Joe Mazzulla, okay?
You say all these negative things about Mazzulla. On the second hand, you say, well, he's young, he's learning. And on the third hand, again, you come back and you violate him. Listen, you can be critical and you can also be positive. I just feel like Jay is doing too much flippy-floppy.
It's both ways. What is flippy-floppy? I never heard that word before. What's that, floppy disk? Be a part of the show. Listen to Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings 5 to 9.
The GRB Rays have established themselves as one of the top baseball programs in the Midwest and the country. Looking for a team to play for in the spring and summer of 2024? Rays tryouts begin in July and August, and signups are now open. Since 2010, the Rays have developed over 370 college players, including over 140 players committed to Division I baseball and 17 MLB draft picks.
Rays Baseball. Raise your game.
Win a round of golf for two at the Bridges or the Meadows at 6 Mile Creek from Guinness. Stop by for a pint at LJ Sports Tavern, Danny's Pub, Echo Tap, and Nitty Gritty downtown and scan the QR code to enter. Show me your Guinness, Wisconsin. You're listening to Rutledge and Hamilton on 100.5 ESPN. Brought to you by X Golf in Madison and Middleton.
Players like Giannis, two-time MVP, these guys want to be coached. He's extremely open and on board, and I look forward to working with him.
Adrian Griffin there of the Milwaukee Bucks, new head coach. And what did you guys think of Eric Name, and specifically the idea, Colin Russo, Jesse Nelson, Jim Rutledge with you live from the Everlight Solar Studio, the idea in question that one name that was put out there, Bobby Portis, has been floated a few times. It seems the most likely scenario for the Bucks is that Chris Middleton will opt in, maybe for his 1 year, $40 million deal.
$40 million, yeah.
Yep. And he probably could get more guaranteed over 2 or 3 years. But I think opting in gives him a good chance to get one more payday and then see what happens. But then, obviously, Drew Holiday and Giannis, but Grayson Allen, who I can get rid of whenever. He's one-dimensional.
Yeah, he stinks.
And he's not one-dimensional like Tyler Hero's one-dimensional. Like, he's just
no-dimensional.
Right. You can pay someone less money. I mean, that's the classic second-round or undrafted guy.
Give someone a shot. Right?
Yes.
A high-motor guy who could fill it plug and play there, yeah.
Right. So Grayson's a guy that I think the Bucks will likely try to just give away for a younger player that could do similar things. And then you have, obviously, Bobby Portis is a name that's up there, too. I mean, Pat Connaughton could be out there. Like, these sort of players who are kind of ancillary is where you're going to fit in.
Yeah.
And then you'll have, it's hard to figure out where some of these players fit as far as mid-level and veteran, all these different things that I don't understand how it works, and it really can't be figured out until free agency gets rolling here. But I could see Grayson Allen and Bobby Portis both be moved.
So what I'm most intrigued about is I feel like the Bucks have already kind of made their decision, because I think you could have either run it back with Bud and change some of the personnel, or you could bring in a new coach and see if new eyes on it, new philosophy gets it done with a lot of the same characters in place for at least one more year. So I think they're going to run back a lot of what they already have. I think they bring it back with Adrian Griffin and say, okay, here's a couple of things that I think I can tweak on a team that already was the number 1 seed last year, that won a finals title a couple of years ago.
And had some injury trouble, too.
And had some injury trouble in each of the last 2 playoff runs. Exactly. So I think they're kind of planted their flag already with running back many of the same guys. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of turnover. And
Lopez is interesting because he doesn't really fit the style of defense that Griffin likes to play.
That one is interesting, yes. But also, like, he has found such a niche on the team that it's going to be hard to try and upset that when you already have a brand new coach coming in. So I think the coaching philosophy, similar to what we saw with the Packers in 17 and 18, like, they changed coaches before they made any other additional changes. Let's see if they do the same thing with the Bucks, or if they decide that this year they want to try and really tear down a couple of different parts of that operation and bring back something that feels totally new.
Yeah, I agree with you, because this is not a young roster in terms of comparatively to some of the rest of the league. Drew Holiday, 32 years old, 31 years old. Chris Middleton, same age, 32. Giannis is still in his prime, and Giannis is the star. He's going to be the rock. Brook Lopez, 35 years old. It's not like they have too much time to dance around with this. They're paying these guys a fortune, and it's just a matter of who you're going to place around the pieces of the puzzle to make the ship float. That's all it is.
Very top-heavy. Very, very top-heavy.
And they're not young. So they're going to need to figure that out, and it's going to be a lot of figuring out where you can plug and play.
I said it earlier, and I think I was joking about it, but the undrafted free agents, Marshawn Beauchamp is a guy that they need to make a jump to really be a contributor. And they might have to live with growing pains in the regular season.
Yeah.
Maybe be a 4 seed.
Sacrifice that, because it doesn't matter.
Miami's an 8 seed in their NBA Finals. This has been Rutledge and Hamilton, presented by Coors Light.
Continues to make a home right here in Wisconsin. The original 86 bourbon is the best-selling bourbon in Iowa for 3 straight years, and you have the opportunity to get that here in Wisconsin. Also, the quintessential, the best American single malt, voted by John Barleycorn Awards, and Cedar Ridge manages every step of the production from grain to glass. Make sure you pick up the Scalzo and Bruss Private Barrel of bourbon and rye whiskeys, available at Discount Liquor at 51st in Oklahoma or Barstow in Maine in downtown Waukesha.
Hey, this is Craig Karmazin. Join Kyle Wallace and me every Sunday morning for Sunday Karma on a Good Karma Brands radio station, 100.5 ESPN, WTLX, Monona, Madison.